Welcome in. We are live for the 2022 CFF Kings Classic League. I'm your host in studio, Matt Hicks, the FF educator, and I am joined on the ground live from the draft room, John Lobb, the gridiron scholar. John, the chat is already popping off. We love to see so many folks in here. Make sure to interact throughout it, folks. We're really excited for that part of things. John, I'll pass it off to you. A little bit of vibe from the draft room. We will start by going over the rules a little bit and giving some background information. The draft itself kicks off at 10:10. We kicked off recording about 10:05, so a little bit of an intro here. And then the way it's going to work is we'll go first two rounds will be me and John. And then from there, we're going to switch out our analysts so that each participant has a round here through all 12 rounds, I should say. So, John, go ahead and get us going here.
Hey, Matt, great to join you. Everyone, thanks for joining us from Canton, Ohio. We are in the Doubletree Hilton live broadcasting. I have 8 other drafters with me live in the room. And I wanted to give a shout out to my nephews, Vince and JT. They were willing and wanted to see Uncle John on YouTube today. So shout out to JT and Vince. They're very excited. And obviously my brother Brian and his lovely wife Danielle. Thanks for watching, everyone. And we are also doing a charity fundraising event that is attached to the King's Classic. We are collecting money for St. Jude's Children's Hospital. There is a link on my Twitter page, which is Gridiron Skull 91. There's a link in the chat room. Please, if anyone's watching and enjoy all the college fantasy football stuff that Matt and I do, please donate. Any amount counts. It goes to the children at St. Jude's. It's a great, great hospital to help families. And Matt, yeah, this is the second year we're live from the FF Expo. We are pumped. It's growing. I wanted to show the viewers we are playing for the championship belt. The winner gets this great
Ooh.
belt. So that's the bragging rights of winning and playing for the belt, which has been made by Trophy Smack. The winner will receive it around the holiday season after the league is completed. So we are playing this out. And the winner will obviously be announced on Twitter by myself and everyone else in the league. So we're really excited about this, Matt. And we are trying to have a format in which other people who want to play CFF for the first time, they can enjoy. So what we've done is we've taken out kickers and defenses. Just get rid of those in college fantasy football.
Thank you for that.
With college fantasy football, 130 kickers, trying to figure out bye weeks, just forget about it. Defense, most people just stream. It's a lot of work, just a lot of things can happen, a lot of randomness. So we got rid of defenses. What we're doing in this league, it is a 2-quarterback league. All players from the 131 FBS teams are available in the player pool. Passing touchdowns are worth 6 points. We had a vote on this 2 years ago on Twitter, and we try to give the passing quarterbacks a little bit value in comparison to the elite rushing quarterbacks. So passing touchdowns are worth 6 points. In our starting lineups, we have 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. Oh, if my memory serves, a tight end. And I think we have 2 flex position every week. So this is a really nice format if people want to play a CFF league for the first time. It's a format that is more than reasonable, and it gives a little balance to the rushing and the throwing quarterbacks.
John, before we get going here, we have about 3 minutes before we draft. Have to give a shout out right off the bat to Brandon in the chat. Brandon Lejeune donated $100 to St. Jude's already. Thank you so much, Brandon. We appreciate that tremendously.
Thank you, Brandon. That's very kind of you. We appreciate it.
And John, we have a question in the chat. We have to give a shout out. This is year 2. There is a belt. Who walked in with the belt today?
The champion from last year, Justin Heisley, could not make it for personal reasons, but he won the belt. You can go to my Twitter page and you scroll down, you will find a picture with him smoking with the belt over his shoulder from last year. And this year, Justin is drafting out of the 12 hole, I believe. I'm number 11, and Justin follows me on the back end at number 12. But he will be joining us at the end of the draft live.
Fantastic. And John, look, we got a shout out. You gave a shout out. We got a shout out back for you. to
Oh
Uncle
my!
John.
So I didn't know this. My nephew Vince is called Invincible on YouTube. Thank you, Vince, for shout out. Uncle John appreciates that.
A fantastic pun here. Uh, Very excited. The chat is absolutely going nuts here. I love it. That is so fun. That's what we wanted to do. You know, some of us could be in Canton, some of us couldn't be in Canton. So we're really excited that folks are joining us virtually, engaging with us this whole way through, man. Um, oh, can we adjust the draft room again, John? I think your cell phone dropped here.
Oh,
We want to see
yes.
all the guys. Let's see those beautiful faces there.
How's that? Everyone can. And yes, if you look at the third picture on the YouTube channel, that is the live draft room with all of the participants who are here in Canton. And we have some guests coming in and out. But you can see everyone. There we go. Shane is clapping. Shane is pumped. He's bringing the energy this morning. All right. So some people eating still, but
Well,
we're all ready for the
we're
draft
just
here.
about on the verge of it here. 20-second
Ooh,
countdown.
20 seconds for Josh to start.
Hey, we got a check in from Jay Haggerty from Connecticut. Me and John also from Connecticut. We love those check ins. Let us know where you're watching from. That's pretty fun.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so 20 seconds, John. I have to be honest. I spent so much time prepping the back end of this draft. I didn't even think about my draft strategy. So we are officially live. I'm a little bit nervous here. The way it'll work is me and John are going to kind of give the analysis through the first 2 rounds here, and then we're going to bring it on and rotate through. And I need to turn off my fan tracks noise.
All
And
right, we kicked off the draft with Bijan Robinson to Josh at Fantasy Points now, right, Josh? Fantasy Points. So follow Josh at CFF Guys on Twitter, and all his stuff is great stuff is at fantasypoints.com.
And this is a 2 quarterback start. So just an
Yes.
FYI for folks because that totally changes the way the first round goes.
Ooh, Nick's on the clock.
Nick is on the clock. We have some more check-ins here from the coast, North Carolina. We love to see that. We were just talking about Raleigh pre-show. I'm not sure what
Ooh.
part of North Carolina. A check-in from the Midwest, from Illinois. Expecting a lot of Illinois players drafted. Chase Brown has burned me once before, and I'm never going back to that well. So I can tell you I won't be drafting him, but Bijan Robinson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, the first 2 players off the board, which brings me up here.
Ooh,
Like
Matt,
I
number 3.
Listen, this is a lot of pressure. All right, we're playing with the Sharks. Part of me wants to get a little contrarian here, but I think I'm just going to play it safe. I'm going to take. Let's see. Oh, I added him to my queue. Let's actually draft him now. I think I'm going to go ahead and take Travion Henderson. Just play it safe here. Get a running back off the board early, and hopefully I snipe Jared. I can't tell, but I really hope I did.
So,
CJ
Jared with
Stroud,
the first.
first
Oh, the
quarterback
first
off the board
quarterback.
here. A check in from Philly, Brandon, always representing Philly well. Watching from the draft room. All right, Jared, rub it in on us. Watching from Detroit. I love these
All
check-ins.
right.
Keep
Shout
them
outs from
coming.
across the country.
We
Keep
are
them
we are
coming,
really covering
everyone.
some. No West Coasters. So I know somebody from California woke up at 7 a.m. to watch this. Come on.
Come on, someone on the West Coast is watching, please.
I believe it. Let us know. Let us know. Checking in from Ohio, 2-time pros versus Joe, CFF league winner, Banshee Boys. Thanks for joining us. All right. Reno, we got Reno in the house. Love to see it. Watching from Baltimore, former home. Used to live in
Ooh.
Baltimore. Shout out to Desi there. As we have Lou Nichols coming off the board 5th from JD. By the way, we're going to break down all of these choices in depth with our drafters as they come on. But John, any surprises? I feel like we're in pretty reasonable territory for these first 5 picks.
Oh, absolutely, my friend. I mean, most of us in this room have probably been drafting since April at least. And these tend to be, so far there's no surprises. I'm probably thinking around late second round, there might be some players who we are surprised by. But the first round is kind of settled in. Obviously, different people have different players they like. So someone might go 5th or 6th. We just had another group of 5 running back Rasheen Ali of Marshall went to Shane Hallam. So we have two of the top six players are from the group of five. And if someone isn't familiar with college fantasy football, one of the greatest aspects of this by far is that you get to learn all the player pool from the teams in the group of five and the power five. And there
Yeah.
are some solid college fantasy football prospects in the group of five. So we're rolling here with Campus to Canton. They got the whole team here right now. They are in a group think trying to get together. And
Oh,
we
so
have
it
a
is a
pick.
team effort. I was wondering if
Ooh.
it was a team effort. That's a little bullish. I feel like Caleb Williams 107 is a little bullish there.
So Caleb Williams is interesting. I think if you are bullish on Lincoln Riley and the USC offense, I have seen him go as early as the top three in drafts. There are some people who have him at the top of the quarterback board. He tends to be looking around rankings, third or fourth. He's not usually the second, but I have no problem with it because I think he has the ceiling of Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield in that Lincoln Riley, which could be, 25, 30 points a week in college fantasy football. So I love it.
John, John, we
Mike,
have our before the 108, we have our West Coast check-in. Keith is repping from San Francisco. Keith, thank you.
awesome.
I hope you have a good morning coffee along with it. I know I have mine next to me as well. Jameer Gibbs at 108 from Mike Bainbridge and Deuce Vaughn. Dwight checking in, part of every CFF Devi site, but Rookie Big Board as well, a part of the Devi show with Skip Newton. Zach Charbonnet off the board. We got a first round Zach Charbonnet off for Eric Froton. And John, that is a shark pick right there. We debated on last week's CFF show if it would be Zach Charbonnet or Sean Tucker. And one thing I mentioned was that I was seeing Charbonnet more and more at the back end of the first round. And Froton really put that to fruition here. And so I don't know if he was in your queue, but John is on the board at 111. So it'll be interesting to see here if he continues this running back run, only one wide receiver, only two quarterbacks off the board through the first 10 picks.
I did have Zach Charbonnet in my queue, but the player that I wanted more than anyone is still on the board, so I'm very excited. Well,
More
I'm
than
at the back end.
anybody.
So, yeah, I wanted this player more than anyone. It is Braylon Allen, the running back of Wisconsin.
Ooh,
He was the guy I wanted more than anything here. I think he has the potential to lead the nation in rushing. That Wisconsin offensive line is big, mean, nasty. They're going to run this young man at 235 pounds, at least 250 carries. Absolutely love Braylon Allen. So I was very happy with that. And then Bryce Young followed. Justin Heisey, the winner last year, follows with the third quarterback in the first round, Bryce Young, everyone.
John, give me an adjustment on the draft room again. Slide that camera for me.
Oh,
We're getting
there
so here's what's happening. John is celebrating his pick so hard that he's knocking over his cell phone. That's the only
the only explanation.
we're getting a lot of positive response from the chat for John's 111 Braylon Allen pick, and timed in well. Nathan is watching from Wisconsin, so I think we got a nice little Braylon Allen pick there for Nathan, checking in just in time to see a Badger go off the board. And CFF insiders here, that is Justin, correct? That's our defending champion.
Yes, that's our defending champion.
Bryce Young at 112 and Cedric Tillman at 211. And judging by the last few shows that I've done with John and his reaction there, you could see him. He's scrambling looking at his cheat sheet because I think he wanted Cedric Tillman at 202.
I was eyeballing Cedric Tillman. There's no doubt about that. I wanted him badly. But because of the quarterback with 6-point passing, I'm taking a dual threat. My number 3, Hendon Hooker, Tennessee right here. I just wanted the rushing numbers, and if he throws another 30, I'm in good shape. So
now,
I
John,
got Braylon Allen and Hendon Hooker I opened the draft with.
Great. John, I'm looking here at our first round, and we had 8 running backs come off the board. For folks who are familiar, maybe have done one CFF draft so far, maybe they've never even heard of a CFF draft. 8 running backs this year. Is that pretty much on trend for you?
I would a little heavier than normal, I would think. Maybe usually you see 2 or 3 wide receivers go in the first round. But we had one at number 13 at Cedric Tillman. But so far, I would say it's a little running back heavy compared to what I have seen recently.
It'll be really interesting for me. I don't know. I feel like, I actually maybe can give some analysis here. I don't know if I'll get sniped from the draft room live, but I'm looking here at 210 and I'm hoping that the quarterbacks continue to progress slightly. I feel like I've seen heavier quarterback runs to this point. Wide receivers have been essentially untouched. So that'll be really interesting to see what makes it back to me there at 211.
There's clearly value right now at the wide receiver position is sitting out there. There's huge up. There goes another. Eric Froton
Xavier
just took
Worthy, yeah.
Xavier Worthy of Texas. So maybe we have a run here, but you're now looking at the second level of running backs. Which one do you like? Who's your favorite one? Do you want to go with the stud running back, or are you going to bypass them here? So it's a lot of different paths people can go. And let's see how many. Ooh,
Jordan
Dwight
Addison,
Peoples.
yeah. So
Yeah,
we're getting a
Jordan
little bit of a
Addison.
run here. Yeah.
Well, the value was there, definitely, in my opinion, at the wide
Yeah,
receiver position. Yeah.
absolutely here.
So you're coming up in 3 picks. No, more than that, 5.
There we
So,
go.
Matt, who's our scheduled first guest on today?
Miles Price off the board at 205. Our
Ooh.
first guest is coming in from Fantasy Points, Josh, correct?
Yeah, so why don't we wait till Josh makes his 2 picks at the turn, and then we can bring Josh in afterwards. How's that?
That's perfect. That's perfect. And I mentioned this wide receiver run, and here we
There
go.
we
I mean,
go. Yeah.
it is happening. So I've got my eyes on a player here. I'm hoping he makes it back to me, but I'm gonna need to come up with a backup plan here because we're playing with sharps here, John. Now I gotta tell you, I think we talked about this a decent amount on last year's show. My goal was to not come in last last year because I feel like I have a pretty good experience with
Ooh.
CFF. But we're throwing around a lot of top weight here in this draft room, a lot of hard hitters. And I think I came in ninth last year. I was very happy with that result. And if I remember, John, I think I might have edged out you a position. So
Yes, you did. I think you finished 1 spot ahead of me in the rankings or in the
right, we're
standings.
we're punching here. We're punching with the heavyweights. Nathaniel Dell, ironically, not a heavyweight, coming in here at 206. And so the campus to Canton crew. Now, John, you said the whole crew's there. They got a team working
Um,
on this draft.
they have currently in the room, they have 4 members of the campus, the Canton crew, and there are other ones walking in and out of the room. I've seen at least 5 or 6 people today. So, but Chris Moxley is the one in charge. He's managing the team today. And yes, Nathaniel Dell. So we have now had what 5 receivers in the second round and with the first 6 picks. The only one was my pick of Hendon Hooker. Shane goes back to back running backs. Takes Tavian.
Shane is engaging in a strategy that I often try to do, which is bell cow running backs. And for folks who mostly play NFL fantasy football, it's almost an outdated term in the NFL, this bell cow running back, but it's not outdated in college football. There are certainly bell cow running backs, and Shane has probably in the first 2 rounds just drafted 550 carries. I mean,
I would,
it's well
yes.
done.
And Rasheen Ali is a prolific pass catcher. So Shane might be looking at 600 touches between his 2 running backs. So, yes, an old school NFL philosophy of drafting the bell cow running backs, but I love it. I think both are in my top 12. I know, obviously, let me see, where would I? Yes, top 10. I have Tavian Thomas at number 10 and Rasheen Ali at number 7. So he's got 2 of my top 10 running backs there. Great,
That's
great
fantastic.
build. And JD Yankee's up right now. So he's debating with a friend what he should do here, or he's bragging, or you know.
Tell him not to take the guys I want. That'd be helpful.
So we also have following them is the Natty Chasers with Jared. He's going to follow JD Yankee. Oh, for those who are watching, we have 3 or 2.5 minutes on the clock. Is that what I put on the clock?
Yep, we have
Oh,
2.5
3
minutes.
minutes. So we have 3 minutes because we are doing this live and people are coming on the show to talk to us and chat. So we give people enough time in case they need time to think. Their players in their queue get taken. So if anyone who's watching, we just had the pick.
Dang it! Come on, JD.
Mike, my teammate Matt is mad. He wanted Malik Cunningham.
That was my pick. Oh man.
Jared Burton, Jerome, or what? Jermaine
Jermaine
Burton to
Burton.
Jared. just with
Oh,
our seventh wide receiver in this. And Matt, you can go ahead and think. I'll do the talking for now. So far, let's recap this second round. We have Cedric Tillman kicked it off. I took Hendon Hooker at number 11 or 2, I should say. Xavier Worthy to Eric at number 3. Jordan Addison, wide receiver, to Dwight Peoples at number 4. Miles Price to Mike Bainbridge at number 5. Nathaniel Dell, campus to Canton. Then we had Shane took the first running back. Tavian Thomas, Malik Cunningham to J.D. Yankee, the quarterback. Jermaine Burton, wide receiver, to Jared at Natty Chasers. And Matt, go ahead and announce your pick online here.
I went for Josh Downs, wide receiver out of UNC. I wanted Malik Cunningham. I think at 208, it's such a good value. I like my start here, but my goodness, I would trade my start for JD's start. I have a lot of Lou Nichols. I have a lot of Malik Cunningham. So I really like that. And, Brandon mentioned in the chat here a great value for Malik. And then another shout out for JD here in the chat. So folks really like his team off the bat. Now, John, it's interesting. We're playing
Ooh,
with folks who are very familiar with the process, with with CFF. Do you approach the draft any differently working with folks who are experienced and are playing a lot at this level? Or are you just kind of taking it as the draft gives it to you?
I am, because I'm on the turn. I'm taking it as the draft comes to me. I think on the turn, if you're in the beginning or the end of any round, I think somewhat you are beholden to what is dropping the value. You got to go for the value that falls to you. And we just had our first guest who's going to come on very shortly.
Yeah,
But
we got something to talk about. He took a very interesting pick for
yeah,
the
we'll
interview.
we'll let Josh announce his 2 picks back to back. So now we're on the third round. Nick Allen, CFB, winning edge, is up. He has gone Jackson Smith and Jigbu. And we didn't announce it earlier. He took Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver out of TCU. So he has gone the back to back. He's the only one who took back-to-back wide receivers with their first picks. Let's see what Nick does. And we will have Josh coming on very soon to talk about his 2 picks. And you can see him on the live board, but we'll let him chat why he went that direction and what he thinks of those 2 players.
Right after I figure out who I'm going to take here, we'll
Oh,
bring
Matt.
Josh in.
All right. Go ahead, Matt. Ooh,
Michael
Nick
Meyer.
now.
I was
Michael.
wondering if it was too early for tight end there, but you know what? Nick, and we'll have Nick on. I believe he's round 4. It'll be interesting because he's bucking some trends here. Quentin Johnston at 211, Michael Meyer at 302.
Well,
I'm gonna. Oh,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Matt.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I was going to talk about the tight end value if they kept dropping, because I think Myers is a second round pick. I can make that argument. But in the third round, like this approach, he's going for high end pass catchers. Obviously, if anyone, I didn't announce this is 1 point PPR. So obviously, for high end pass catchers, you're hoping for that 70 receptions, with lots of touchdowns. So Nick is got the probably the number 1 ranked tight end mostly across the board in college fantasy football. So he's looking for a little positional value there. Matt, go ahead and make your announcement with your pick.
All right. Well, I took Sean Tucker here at 303. Wasn't actually on my radar, but I just double checked my rankings and he was just sitting there. I think it's a great value. But we have Josh in here now coming in at CFF, guys. Josh, first off, thanks for being live in Canton. Thanks for being at the draft for year 2 here. Tell us, though, you went A.T. Perry at 212. Of course, the fall here is a result of Sam Hartman's very vague injury news. Did you feel confident there that the value was just too far fallen?
Yeah, I like the value of AT Perry there. I mean, I've been picking him up in the first round, and obviously all of us are unsure of what he's going to be without Sam Hartman. But yeah, the value is just too great there. And with drafting guys like these that are so good, like you guys and everybody else, so you got to take risk in a draft like this. And so if Perry and Butte hit, then I'm more than excited to have him there. If not, then I have to get lucky here.
Well, that's a good point. It was one of the questions, I was talking with John about, we engage in CFF drafts at all different experience levels, right? When you're in a room here playing with 10 other sharps and me, do you approach the draft any differently? Are you willing to lean into a little bit more risk?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you have to with you guys. You guys are so good, and I'm just happy to be at the table here. And so, to be able to do that, to be able to have a chance to compete, you gotta take risk and try to hit home runs throughout the draft. So,
Awesome.
So, so Josh, I was very interested to see the value of A.T. Perry after we got the news with Sam Hartman. I dropped him a little bit down my board, and you are right. He was a first round pick, mostly or early second round turn. So, why are you comfortable enough? Do you think you can? He's going to be productive enough the first, let's say he's out a month. Hartman, I'm wishing the young man the best. Obviously, that's the most important. But are you comfortable enough that Perry will still be targeted even with question marks at the quarterback position for the Demon Deacons?
I mean, I think so. I mean, they run almost 80 plays a game, right? I mean, so they're gonna target their outside receiver is usually their number one. And I just think A.T. Perry is so dominant and so much last year and then in practice, in spring ball and so far in camp that hopefully if it's Mitch Griffiths, if he ends up taking over, or Michael Kern, that either one of those guys will have to rely on them. So we'll see. I mean, I definitely like him a lot. I like his talent, and so I'm comfortable with sticking with him here and just seeing what happens, man.
And I am large on Boutte. I moved him way up in my rankings. I think he's
Mhm.
the type of guy who can win you a league.
Yeah,
I'm convinced that Brian Kelly is going to target this young man prolifically. If you look at what Brian Kelly has done at Notre Dame, you go all the way back. He has had an alpha male, and I would argue that no one he ever had at Notre Dame was as good as Boutte. So, and I think the way to keep Boutte on campus is to get him in the Bolitnikoff talk. And how do you do that? You get him peppered with targets.
yeah.
So tell me why you are also comfortable with Boutte while some people are shying away from the LSU wide receiver.
Yeah, well, I think John, you and Wes from Fantasy Points with me, you guys are both guys that just kind of stuck with them throughout all the injury and kind of all the stuff that was going on in the offseason, all the rumors. And guys like me, like just dropped them. And so it became a point where essentially after hearing that he came back 100% from the surgeries and stuff like that, that I felt really comfortable picking him back up. And so I was hoping he would drop here. He's pretty comfortably in the third round at this point. But man, he's easily a top 10 wide receiver in my book. I think he's number 8 for me. So yeah, I was excited to get him here, and I'm excited that you guys like you were willing to stick with him through the whole process because you got some sweet deals on him and
I
some best
did. I
balls
used
that
to
we
get
did
him
for
in
a
the third or
while.
fourth. Yeah, I used to get him in
Yeah,
the third and
yeah.
fourth round on the turn because he was falling so much. Um, so, and then is there anything you like to say about Bijan Robinson, or was it just so easy that you took him and there was no question about it?
No, it was definitely a question. So what I was actually planning on doing originally was either taking JSN and then going uh, a wide receiver and then either best available quarterback, running back. But I decided to just go with Bijan, and I was actually going to come around with Marvin Harrison here and at the end of the second or beginning of third, but then
Yeah.
decided to go with A.T. Perry. So, JSN, I love JSN. I think he's going to be dominant, but I'm also from Austin. So I'm a Texas guy. So to be able to root for a guy, that there's something about that just makes fantasy football fun. So,
You know what, Josh? I'm glad you said that because there are times when I'm in late round 15, and if there's a Michigan guy I've liked in the past, I'll grab him. I mean, part of this is also fun, and it is so enjoyable to watch your team, on a
absolutely.
Saturday. If you've had like Jalen Hurts as a Sooners fan, there hasn't been
Yeah.
much better. And I think that sometimes, obviously you don't reach, right? That's not what we're saying, but part
Yeah.
of this game is with 130 teams, and if you have a favorite team, go out and grab a player from it. I mean,
Yeah.
is there anything? I mean, part of what I love about this game is when you're rooting for your guy and he's on your fantasy team and your favorite
Yeah.
team, doesn't get much better, right, Josh? Now I have to make a pick,
Absolutely.
so I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Do it.
go here. You go ahead, Matt.
Yeah. Well, and John's making a pick here, and we do have Nick coming up here for the fourth round. So, Josh, I would love just some closing thoughts here. Oh, we got the belt in the background for John. I love it.
Little Froton.
That's the closest that belt is getting to John's head all year. But Josh, I would love just some final thoughts, thinking here about what your strategy is going to be moving forward with the rest of this draft, and just kind of your general thoughts from this point on.
Yeah, I mean, I think from here, for the next few rounds until I fill out my roster, I'll probably just go running back, wide receiver, best available player, and then go quarterbacks. I'm hoping that some passing quarterbacks, the 6-point touchdowns, maybe they'll fall a little bit, and I can find some value here. If not, I'm in trouble. But just looking forward to.
Thanks,
Last year,
Josh. Now
honestly,
I know how to snipe you. I really appreciate that. No, I'm
yeah,
just
absolutely.
kidding.
Last year, though, I got Sam Hartman, and I think it was Will Rogers or something really late. So I'm trusting that strategy again.
Awesome, Josh. Well, thanks for joining us for round 3. I know we have Nick coming up for round 4, but we'll also have some rounds at the end to circle back with folks. So we'll kind of see how things go here.
Sweet. Thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate
Thanks for coming, Josh. See you later.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Josh.
see ya.
Hey, Matt, why don't I recap, because while Josh was speaking, we had a plethora of picks
Yes,
come off the board.
please.
Matt took Sean Tucker, and he discussed it later. Natty Chasers took Dwayne McBride of University of Alabama, Birmingham. J.D. Yankee went Marvin Harrison, wide receiver, Ohio State. Shane Hallam went Rashid Rice, wide receiver, SMU. We had a running back, Jordan Mims at Fresno, went to campus to Canton. Mike Bainbridge took Stephon Cobbs, wide receiver, Boise State. Dwight Peoples took the guy in my queue, Devin A-Chain from Texas A&M. I loved him. Eric Froton took Zach Evans, running back, Mississippi. I went with the wide receiver. I decided that I was going to do a little balance in this draft. So I went Jalen Cropper, wide receiver out of Fresno. The defending champ, Justin Heisey, took Dylan Gabriel and Kamar Wheaton, running back, SMU. He took those two back to back. We're now in the 4th round. It was Kamar Wheaton. I went Will Shipley. Eric Froton.
Out of my queue, I thought I was going to get him.
I like Shipley there in the value. I was taking him earlier in drafts in round 2 and 3. So for him to fall to me all the way to 4, I'm very happy about that. Marvin Mims went to Eric Froton. We've now had 2 tight ends in the last 3 picks. Dwight Peoples took Brock Bowers. Pretty much the consensus number 2 tight end at Georgia. Obviously, some people may have differences there. Donovan Edwards to Mike Bainbridge, the running back from Michigan. Michael Trigg, the tight end, went to campus to Canton with Chris Moxley. Dante Cephas, wide receiver, Kent State, out of Shane Hallam. And I love it. Shane is showing his knowledge of the G5. Shane is Shane is
He's
deep.
flexing.
If you know, Shane is great. He does draft countdown. He watches thousands of players. So Shane knows what he's talking about when he's looking at these G5 guys. And he's got 3 out of 4. And JD Yankee. I think he's the first. Wait, or did Justin
JD
Heisey?
JD has taken everybody out of my queue. When JD gets on here, man, we're picking a fight. Oh man.
We've had
That is
2. Yeah, hey, JD, I know he likes Will Rogers. I've seen JD take Will Rogers in other drafts. He went with the two quarterback build, him and Justin Heisey. So JD took Malik Cunningham and Will Rogers, and Justin Heisey took Bryce Young and Dylan Gabriel. Now, we still have some teams without a quarterback. Froton, Peebles, Bainbridge, Hallam, and same thing with Matt. So we have Jared and Josh, who just came on. So we have a lot of teams who are going very opposite of each other. 2 teams with 2 quarterbacks and 6 teams who haven't taken one yet. So I love the way the board is coming together. And if you haven't done college fantasy football, it is so fun in this regard. If you play in a 1 quarterback NFL league like I have for 33 years, it has basically become late quarterback. You can predict the first 4 or 5 rounds. There's almost a consensus of picks with ADP. College fantasy football, the consensus of ADP isn't as solid as there is, and it does allow you in 2 quarterback leagues to build your team so differently, especially in a PPR format, because you can go the high-end PPR receivers, or another Matt Hicks with Matt. Go ahead, you say it. Nice pick. Tell us why you went there.
Oh, well, I was pretty set on Will Rogers at quarterback. I just don't love where the value is at running back or wide receiver right now. I got sniped 2 picks in front of me, and so I went with Quinn Ewers. I was hoping I could do Rogers at 410 and Ewers at 5'3". There is some inherent risk with taking Quinn Ewers here, but I went pretty safe with my first 3 picks, so I thought this would be a pretty good time to go ahead and factor in a little bit of risk. But yes, as Brandon's calling him in the chat, is a sniper supreme here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Ooh.
and then
CFP.
we have Skip mentioning that I should have taken Zach Charbonnet at 103. That would have been a pretty good way to get myself called out right off the bat as an amateur. John, do we have Nick? Is Nick coming up here in the background?
Nick, Nick. Are you ready to possibly jump online? Nick's going to go jump in the room. We have back-to-back picks by
Tyler
Josh,
Shuck coming off the board here.
and
So
maybe
Nick,
we can
Nick's
get Nick
picking.
live. We can get
Well,
Nick live and to announce his last pick, why he went there with that player.
there we go. Yeah, Tyler Shuck coming off the board here. That's a good one. Good guy to talk about. Which is what's great
Absolutely.
about Nick. And what Nick does is, he really projects out the depth charts in depth. I'm very much symbolizing what he does, but it's always interesting to me because I know he focuses on that. So when I see a guy like Tyler Shuck who's in a position battle, it's a nice boost of confidence for somebody I like. So it's nice to see Tyler Shuck come off the board there at 411.
Ooh. Oh.
What
Oh, okay.
placeholder
We
pick?
we
I
have
was
a
like, what's
place.
going on? Who's
I was
got a
like,
placeholder for?
I know Josh is good, man, but I was like, that is some balls right there. But no, Josh is taking a
A placeholder for
placeholder
Corey Kiner.
for
Corey
Corey
Kiner's
Kiner.
not in the
I
pool.
guess he's not in the player pool.
Yeah, Corey Kiner. So for folks watching who might not be familiar, sometimes Fantrax doesn't have everybody in the player pool. So you'll take a player that is not a viable player, and then we'll swap them out later. So Shepard coming off the board here is really a placeholder for Corey Kiner, who is expected to be the starting running back for the Bearcats, transferred in from LSU. And we do have Nick with us now, Nicholas Allen, but he's making a selection. So we'll let him make his selection at 502. Guys, stop sniping me. What are we doing? I got sniped on 2 quarterbacks. I wanted to stack Rodgers and Ward. I'm going to have to figure out what to settle for. John, I'll let you talk to Nick here while I scramble to make a selection. Welcome in, Nick. Welcome to beginning of round 5, everyone.
Yeah, thank you for having me. You hear me okay?
Yeah, sounds perfect, dude. Thanks for coming on. And I love your build here where you start out with the 2 big receivers and Michael Myers. So you kind of get this positional value. You want to obviously have Michael Myers beat your opponent at the tight end position. But what I'm very interested, now you went back-to-back quarterbacks, which I understand. But why are you – so tell me why you went back-to-back quarterbacks. Then we'll talk about your lack of running backs.
Well, I've been taking a pretty quarterback heavy strategy through a lot of best balls and things like that, and I didn't expect to wait until the 4th round to take my first, but just decided I had waited a little bit longer than I usually do, so I was going to need at least 2 here pretty quick, and I don't be shocked if I max it out pretty soon.
So tell me about Tyler Shook and what are you going to do? Because there's some questions about him. He has never made it through a full season, as the starting quarterback. So I mean, if I'm taking Shook, I have to have some plans. How am I going to protect my draft pick if something happens, if he gets injured, if he gets benched? What are your long-term plans with Shook right now?
It's definitely a little bit of a risk. I mean, you mentioned some injury history. Also, we don't know necessarily that he's going to get the job, but I feel pretty confident that he's going to take that first snap in week 1. And it's a lot harder to lose a job, in my opinion, than it is to win it. So if he takes that first snap, I feel pretty good about how things, the high end of things. Based on the coordinator change they had there, Zach Kittley moving from Western Kentucky to Texas Tech. If Shuck is going to be the guy, then I feel pretty good about his level of production. It was definitely earlier than I would want to take him, But I just had, I couldn't risk it with Josh behind me. I thought there might be a chance. Obviously, it seems like he went in a different direction, but went a little earlier probably than I wanted to. But if I didn't take Shuck, I was going to take Ward. So it worked out, either way.
Nick,
So
could you do me a quick favor? Sorry to jump in. Could you mute fan tracks on your side?
Yeah. Let me do that.
Thank you. Sorry.
One quick question when you're done, Nick. Ward now. Not everyone might know who Cameron Ward is, coming out of Incarnate Ward, FCS player who moves up to the FCS level. Tell me what your projections, because I love your projections, love what you do. Tell us how you look at Cameron Ward and how you would project him at this higher level of competition.
Yeah, thank you. I do have some rare or pretty in-depth projections, and Cam Ward's actually one that it's a little more difficult for me, the way I normally calculate things, because he played at the FCS level, like you mentioned, and a lot of my stuff, I try to do FBS opponents only, filter for garbage time and all that stuff when I can. So obviously had to get a little bit more creative with him, but he was so productive. And I don't want to make too many Bailey's Abbey comparisons, but what they're doing at Washington State right now is somewhat similar in a lot of ways to what we saw with Kitley and Zappy moving from the FCS level at Houston Baptist up to Western Kentucky last year. Very similar thing with Eric Morris, who was the head coach at Incarnate Word, now is the offensive coordinator at Washington State. So I like that he is, stepping into a new situation, but very familiar, obviously, with the offense that they're going to be putting in place. And, he threw for 4,600 yards last year in 13 games.
Unbelievable.
So,
Crazy.
it sets up pretty well. Might not translate exactly, but I feel like he's going to have an opportunity to be, highly productive again.
Now, Nick, I'm interested here. We talked about kind of the resource that you provide. It's a really in-depth level of projection, and you have thus far through 5 rounds faded the running back position. Is that the way the board fell, or do you feel confident with where running back stands in that 8 to 12 round range?
I don't know if it's it's probably a bad habit, but I definitely have a habit of letting one position probably go a little longer than it should. And sometimes it's wide receiver. I just happen to be in the right spot, today to take wide receivers early. It's not by design necessarily, but in addition to the projections I do, a lot of my day-to-day work is just personnel based, and so I do feel like if I kind of punt for a little bit on one position group, I feel decent about my ability to find a little value later. So I'm gonna have to maybe get creative at running back, but I do think that it's a pretty deep group, and think I'll probably be able to find some guys early, but it might certainly be a position that I have to hit the wire pretty early in the season to try to supplement.
I'm loving you're hearing the rowdiness of the draft room in the background. I love it. John, it looked like you had a question.
Yeah, well, I was going to say I'm looking at my player rankings as I'm drafting, and Nick, I will say, according to my player rankings right now, the value is at running back. There is tons of value at running back. If you have skipped running back, which you have not taken one yet, there's clearly massive opportunity for you at that position right now. And okay, so
Nick, I have a question for you. You put together these beautiful spreadsheets, right? And how much do you just look over to John in the draft room? He's clearly reading off of a piece of paper. All right. Does it just make you shake your fist when you're looking at him?
Not at all. Everybody has their own style. For me, I can be very forgetful, so I try to build something that I can refer to, not have to remember too much, but just as long as I've got easy access to it, I can just take a look and remind myself real quick. So I did build all those spreadsheets basically for me so that I could not have to worry that I'm forgetting something. So hopefully it's all there and I can access it relatively easily.
Fantastic. Well, as we transition here from the 5th to the 6th round, Any kind of closing thoughts for us as to your approach to the rest of the draft? And then John, I'm not even sure who we have on deck anymore, but we got somebody coming up for this next round too.
I don't even have the list in front of me. Let me look it up. All right.
I gotcha. I gotcha. It's Jade. It's Jared next. But Nick,
Oh,
any closing thoughts here?
No, I mean, obviously, I'm going to have to figure out the running back position eventually. So there'll probably be a stretch where I take 4 or 5 in a row, something like that. But I do feel like I'm in a decent spot with pass catchers, so I'll be able to wait a little bit on that. But I mean, with this group, everybody is so smart, so tuned in. And I, deal with a real strong draft room in most of my leagues, and I've found that I'm just not going to outsmart anybody. So usually I've just got to do something a little bit different. So I'm not sure exactly what that is yet. I mean, maybe I guess going with the first tight end tried to lock down what I felt was a pretty clear top spot there. But yeah, I'll have to find some creative thing to do because you guys are so smart and well prepared and the best of the best. So we'll see. Kind of have to figure it out on the fly, but hopefully, hopefully I'll find a way to scratch and claw and stay competitive in this thing.
Thanks, Nick.
hey,
Thanks for
thanks,
joining
Nick.
us.
It was great coming on,
Appreciate it,
and
guys.
everyone.
Thank you for putting it
You
together.
gotta
And,
you gotta follow Nick on Twitter at CFB Winning Edge. It's great. His podcast. You do 2 a week, right? With Scott Bogman. Is it 2 a week?
it's at least one. We've got a little
Oh, okay.
catching up to do. Make sure we can. Right now, we're previewing all 131 teams, so
Awesome.
we've got a little work to do to make sure we get all of them finished by game one. So it should be at least one, maybe two over the next few weeks, so we can make sure we're getting it done.
Excellent. Excellent. Thanks for coming on, Nick.
All right, guys. Thanks.
All right, and we're moving on here. We're in round 6. We're a little bit, we got our guests hanging out. I love it. We have plenty of rounds, John. We only had 12 rounds of guests booked, and we have 19 rounds of draft.
Oh
Right,
yeah,
so
we're fine.
we'll get through it. But can I tell you, John? And I'll do a quick recap here because I want to take a moment and point out how decimated my queue got through Nick's interview. All right. So, I selected Zachary Franklin at 503. I think that was the pick we left off at. Zach Kuntz at 504, the tight end out of Old Dominion. Braden Bennett, 505. Jaden Bray, 506, a great pick, one we discussed a lot on the last podcast episode, John. Jaden Reed at 507, boom, out of my queue. Had my eyes on him. Titus Swen at 508. Tanner Mordecai, top of my queue. Boom, Dwight took him out of my hands. Keaton Mitchell at 5'10", running back at East Carolina. Travis Dye at 5'11", USC. Boom, out of my queue. I talked myself into Travis Dye on this last week's episode, and I thought I was going to get to reap those rewards. Tank Bigsby at 5'12". And, John, you're going to have to finish the recap because now I'm on the clock here, and I've got to make a selection.
Excellent. Yeah, I couldn't pass on that third running back that we can play in a flex. And what really what attracted me to Travis Dye was the number of receptions in this PPR format. I think the value there was too good to pass up. So to kick off the 6th round, we have Torrey Holton, wide receiver of Colorado State, went to defending champ Justin Heisey. Then I went back. I'm staying on brand. I'm convinced that Jaheim Bell, the tight end at South Carolina, is a superstar. I love him in this format. They're going to get the ball into his hands out of the backfield. They're going to put him in motion. They might even do some jet sweeps with him. He is just, I hate to use the analogy, a little Debo Samuel in him, and I think South Carolina is going to use him in every way possible, and he's a tight end. So I love that value in this format. Eric Gilbert, tight end, went to Eric Froton. And then we had wide receiver Dontavian Wicks went to Dwight Peoples, the Virginia wide receiver. Zay Flowers went to Mike Bainbridge. I was hoping I could get Zay back in the 7th round. I've gotten him in 7th, 8th round all year, and now he's going off in the 6th round. I'm a big Zay Flowers guy. We had Campus to Canton came back with Christopher Brooks, running back, BYU. Great high-end upside. Anyone who's been watching BYU over the last 5 years, they feed their running back. Christopher Brooks should be the guy. there, and he should produce. Chase Brown, Shane Hallam actually went power. Ooh, Shane Hallam went power 5, 2 picks in a row. Jaden Bray and Chase Brown.
It's now a surprise.
I like Chase
Where is
Brown
our?
myself
We did
very
have
much.
a Chase Brown. Remember our Illinois shout out from the beginning of the draft here.
There
So
we go.
somebody in Illinois is very happy to see an Illini be drafted off the field. Let's see if I can remember which one it is here, but
Excellent.
very exciting.
Then we had Ontario Brown running back to J.D. Yankee, and Mac Hippenhammer went to Jared Natty Chasers. And Matt, why don't you make your call, and then we'll bring on Jared soon.
Yeah, I went ahead and went with Grayson McCall here at 6'10". It was actually, John, between Grayson McCall and another quarterback here that, I got a little bullish on my fading him on this podcast. Maybe it was 2 weeks ago now. So I felt like I couldn't take the other quarterback, but I feel like there's some really good value. There it is. Corey from Illinois is the one who is excited about the Illini player coming off the board. But we'll go ahead. So I took Grayson McCall out of Coastal Carolina. I felt a pressure here at this point to add another quarterback, but we're going to go ahead and bring in Jared now. Jared joining us, not with the Campus to Canton team, but part of the Campus to Canton team. Jared, how's it going, man? We don't have audio from Jared.
We'll get audio soon.
Yep, we'll do some troubleshooting there. And Nick continues to fade the running back position as an update to Colin Schlee out of Kent State. Another tight end off the board with Eurosic. Let's try Jared again. Nope. He doesn't want to tell us his picks. He's ashamed of them. We're gonna troubleshoot Jared on the back end here. So it's interesting here. Eurosec coming off the board at 6'12". Tight ends are making a run. I almost feel pressure because I think there's one tight end, John, that deserves to have gone by now and hasn't. But the other part of me just doesn't want to take a tight end. So I think I'm probably going to continue to fade it.
Tight end is a very tricky option in college fantasy football. I know some people may not like to play with the tight end, but I very much do so because it is a challenge. Do you draft an elite tight end and try to have some positional value throughout the season, or do you fade it? And there are probably, anywhere from tight end number 7 to tight end 20. All of those players in the right week could be very viable options. And I think it depends on how the owner is putting together their roster. I've come to the conclusion I do like to have a tight end after round 6. But I do watch the tight end board very closely because I'm hoping for a top 5 tight end. And I have once in a while pushed the tight end in round 5 if I see them flying off the board a little bit early. But I mean, there's going to be owners who do bypass the tight end position till late in the draft. So I understand why you're doing, but now you just have to kind of hope you find a diamond in the rough somewheres, because it is hard to get the old proverbial bagel at the tight end position. If that happens to you, it's very hard to win. You got to get at least the 7 points at the tight end position. But I've had too many bagels in my career at the tight end position when you're staring that zero.
Whoa. There's no such thing as too many bagels. All right, John, we live in good bagel territory.
I'm a man who likes my bagels, just not on my college fantasy football.
I'm a man that likes my bagels.
I like my everything bagel, but man,
not the everything bagel.
I love the.
All right, let's bring in the man who probably has never had a true bagel in his life, because I know he's coming from the state of Georgia. Jared, do we have audio now?
Do we have audio now?
We have audio.
Okay, cool. I had to switch over to my phone because my laptop, she has done me well over the years, but she's kicking the bucket here relatively soon.
Jared, before we get your take on bagels, which is important,
yes.
I needed you on this call for this moment because you know who I'm taking.
Okay.
It's Nick Singleton, baby. I'm not letting John get him.
You knew he was my next one. He was my next one.
Okay, so I think you're pushing it a little bit, but you already have 2 running backs, so you're not relying on him week to week. I think it's a fair upside pick here in the 7th round. You were grabbing him like the 5th round at some point. Same with you, John. Both of you deserve to slap on the wrist for that. And I love Nick. I
we
love
unfortunately
Singleton.
encourage each other too much.
We encourage each other. It's true.
But Jared, how are we feeling, man? We're coming into round 7 here. How's the roster looking so far?
Roster's looking pretty good. Got some good value. I was very surprised that like after I kind of passed on tight end at the 4-9, I thought I wouldn't be able to get Kuntz on the way back, but lo and behold, there he was. 100+ targets for a tight end. Give me that in the 5th round all day long.
Now, Jared, I know you're on the board here, so I'm going to let you make your pick. I won't distract you while you're doing it. But I do need to let you know that the chat thinks that you're just confused because Brock Bowers is off the board. So you just don't know who you could possibly
You know,
pick.
it's funny. Like I don't think I've drafted Brock Bowers once this year. It's like everybody thinks that like as soon as Brock Bowers comes off the board that I'm like reeling. Like, nah, I haven't drafted him once this year. I love Brock. I think he's going to smash this year, but like I'd rather grab Trig or Kuntz. I have a ton of Trig and Kuntz this year. Because they go a little bit later.
Just made the freaks list, right? Wasn't he on?
He did.
Yeah,
He
he was
did.
on and pretty high up the freaks list, if I remember right. Bruce
think he's
Feldman's
top
freak
10.
list on the Athletic.
Is that Kuntz top 10 freaks licks? Oh, yeah. Top
was
11. Number
Yeah,
11,
he was
Eric
right
says.
in that territory here. So just to recap here, while Jared's making his pick, so far he's taken C.J. Stroud, Jermaine Burton, Dwayne McBride, Blake Corum, Zach Kuntz, Mac Hippenhammer, and now really interesting pick here. And I think this is a guy we might have talked about, Jared, when I was on one of your mock drafts,
Yep.
and that's Richardson, the running back out of Oklahoma State.
Yeah, so like I thought about taking my last starting wide receiver here, but again, I looked at my queue again, and like Richardson's a guy that I typically am pretty comfortable with taking him in like the 5th, 6th round, and so he just kind of felt like almost a no-brainer here in the 7th round. Again, the only thing that was kind of pushing me was saying like, hey, take your last starting wide receiver, but I'm like, you know what, like if Richardson works out, he is my flex, so I am going to I'm feeling very comfortable with that, and I feel like I get pretty good value at wide receiver when it comes back to me. Hopefully. We'll see.
So, Jared, could you tell me how you went into this draft? You had the 4th pick, so you knew you were going to get an early, high-end fantasy producer. And there were players like Lou Nichols, Rasheen Ali on the board. Tell us why you decided to go the quarterback route, which I love C.J. Stroud there. But tell us why you decided to go with the quarterback with the 4th overall pick here.
So when I came to this draft, and Xavier can confirm to me, I had 4 names written down. I had C.J. Stroud, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Caleb Williams, and Lou Nichols. Those were my top 4 that I was planning on taking in this draft. First 2, or Jackson Smith and Jigba came off the board. And I don't know, I just kind of felt the need to really just go ahead and solidify my quarterback room early, go ahead and get probably the most guaranteed player pretty much in all of college fantasy football this year, is that C.J. Stroud. Figured just go ahead and scoop him up. 6-point passing touchdowns. He helped carry me to the championship last year. Might as well repay the favor and take him here in the 1st round.
Now, I want to ask one other question. Now, when you draft C.J. Stroud, and you knew you weren't going to get JNS, obviously, because he's gone.
Yes.
Did you consider stacking him with Marvin Harrison?
I
Because he was sitting there, and I think that's a strategy. So tell me what you thought.
I heavily considered taking Marvin Harrison Jr. there in the 3rd round. My problem was that like between the 3rd and the 4th round is when I really kind of see a big tier break, and I did not trust that I was going to be able to get a running back of value to come back to me in the 4th round. Now, obviously, if you look at my team, I took Blake Corum in the 4th, a guy who I thought was a pretty good value there for 9. But even so, like I wasn't going to take that chance, because if there's one position this year that I'm personally having a hard time finding value late in, it is the running back room. So I have made it my mission to try to hit running back as early as I can. And I could have done that earlier in the 1st round by taking Lou Nichols at 1-4 instead. But again, just really wanted that stud quarterback.
Yeah, I love it. Now, let's see. You have bypassed the quarterback since then.
I have.
And you don't have to say when or where, but do you have a quarterback in the queue, or do you have a strategy? You don't have to say it yet, but
I
do you know what you're going to do with that position?
I do. I had somebody in the queue. It was somebody I was considering taking over Dominic Richardson. Again, I had like 3 guys in my queue that I was like, all right, if only one of these guys were here, it'd be a no-brainer. But it was a tough choice between 3 guys. The other 2 guys are still in the queue. So again, I'm hoping that we're kind of hitting that end of the draft here where, again, it's only been 2 picks after my pick. So it's still a long way to go. I got 14 picks until my turn, but I'm hoping at least one of those guys falls to me in the 8th round because then I'm going to feel like I got a steal.
I'm looking at the quarterback board, and there's clearly value there.
Oh,
Now
I
we
agree.
did. We had I didn't notice that we had a team with 4 straight quarterbacks by Nick. Okay, I might have to get. I might have to get Nick back on this show.
I love having the draft room live.
Okay,
They're reacting to John's observation.
Oh my God!
Okay,
I'm looking at the board for quarterbacks. I'm like, whoa. Okay.
Where'd they all go?
Okay.
That's
but
a bold strategy, Nick.
No. Okay, I'm not going to speak for Nick here, but if you have drafted with Nick in any leagues this year, you are not surprised by that at all.
It's interesting, it's one of the things about playing CFF. There's so many strategies and approaches you could take.
Yes.
Unlike NFL fantasy football, where things do kind of start to get a little funneled into similar strategies.
I agree.
Where you have Nick with 4 quarterbacks, you have I'm counting 3 teams so far with no quarterbacks through 7 rounds, and potentially a 4th here, depending on what happens. And neither, one isn't right and one isn't wrong. There's just so many ways to win college fantasy football.
Interesting pick there.
Brooks coming off the board here, which I'm sure is a bump in ADP reaction to the JoJo Earl injury news. Jared, I don't know if you have thoughts on that.
Well, JoJo Earl and Tyler Harrell, both in combination with each other, is going to boost Ja'Cory Brooks. It is vital for these guys in any kind of competition to make sure that they get reps at practice, especially fall practice, because that's when it's go time. That's when decisions are being made. And so when you got guys out like JoJo Earl or Tyler Harrell who can't go full force, of course you're going to bring in the guy who got experience last year. I personally was not super high on Ja'Cory Brooks through most of this offseason, but I got no choice to beat now. Like, again, it's going to be Burton. It's probably going to be him as long as those two stay healthy. And Harrell will probably come back and be a beast as well.
And tell us about your running backs right now, because they're very interesting. You wait till the 3rd round and tell us your 3. What do you think of those 3 on the upside for the year?
So Blake Corum, I'm actually a bigger fan of here in this PPR format because, again, he's a very good receiving back. Again, felt like I got great value there with the 4th. Dwayne McBride, not as good for PPR because, again, he's not really much of a pass catcher, but he's easily a guy that could run for 1,400 yards this year with UAB, especially now that he is the clear front running back. I don't know what they were trying to do last year with Jermaine Brown Jr. They tried to make him the star running back at first. I'm like, no, it's going to be McBride. We all learned our lesson. And then Dominic Richardson, again, starting running back for Oklahoma State as far as everything I have heard. So if you can get that guy for Oklahoma State, you're going to be sitting very pretty. And I love all 3 of those running backs here.
Jared, a question in the chat because you mentioned Tyler Harrell helping out Ja'Cory Brooks as well. If you want to expand on that.
Yeah, so Tyler Harrell to me was the biggest question mark when it came to Ja'Cory Brooks's value, because Tyler Harrell is another outside guy just like Ja'Cory Brooks, and I was afraid that they brought in Tyler Harrell as a potential replacement for Ja'Cory Brooks, because while Brooks had some really good plays last year, he also had some times he kind of let the Alabama offense down. And so I think there is a kind of question about who does Bama have in this receiving room. There's a reason why they went after Jermaine Burton. There's a reason why they grabbed Tyler Harrell. There is a reason why they tried to go after Jordan Addison. Again, I don't think Alabama trusts the guys really that they brought in via recruiting. And so they're just going out and grabbing the best guys they can get out of the portal.
Gotcha.
And tell us about Mac Hippenhammer, because I don't know if all the viewers know who he is out of Miami of Ohio. Why'd you take him there?
Jack Sorensen was an absolute monster last year. Mac Hippenhammer was a great receiver in his own right, and he is set to benefit greatly from the fact that Sorensen is now out. He'll be the number 1 wide receiver. Let me see if I can look at.
Oh, looks like we may have temporarily lost Jared. Jared, I think when you flip off your StreamYard screen, we lose you. That's what I'm guessing happened here. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll get him back here in a second. A few more quarterbacks coming off the board here in DTR and Devin Leary.
Ooh, nice. I love Darren. In this format, Devin Leary, I think, has more value because of the 6-point passing touchdown. He was in my queue. I was hoping to get him as my backup. So I think that's a great pick by Dwight here, because he has upside of 35 passing touchdowns. So I like that there a lot. And
Dwight's doing well with that passing touchdowns in general because Tanner Mordecai was his selection in the 5th round.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah.
could combine for 70 touchdowns theoretically, very easily 70 passing touchdowns.
Yeah.
And Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I was looking at him, he is my number 13 quarterback. So Eric got him, top 13 quarterback, dual threat playmaker to get him in round 8. There's still value here at the quarterback position. So those who waited, they're getting some nice value late in the draft right now.
And I know we're coming up through the 8th round here, so I think we're well behind production schedule, but that's okay. So Jared, I'll kind of I'll ask you the same question I've been kind of leaving folks off with. With the way the board has fallen so far, are you happy with where you're at right now, and do you have a strategy moving forward?
I'm pretty happy with where I'm at. Again, just answer. Oh my God, they're back-to-back picks right there. Those were the two that were in my queue, and I was really hoping both of them would make it back here. Dang, that hurt quite a bit. Anyway, I'm feeling pretty good. Probably the biggest question mark I have right now is receiver. Again, I was really hoping Malachi Corley would fall to me there. Mike Bainbridge, of course, had to snipe me there, so that's great. But I'm feeling good with Matt Kippenhammer and Jermaine Burton as solid two duos. Jack Sorensen, I just looked it up, was the wide receiver 11 in college fantasy last year. So Matt Kippenhammer was already a beast in his own right. He definitely has the ceiling to get up there. So yeah, I'm feeling pretty good about a lot of my starters. Again, got to figure out receiver a little bit. Maybe I kind of target that a little bit more heavily going forward here, but I'm feeling pretty good.
Awesome. Jared, thanks for joining us here. We'll let you get off so you can restock your queue for your pick. You're on deck.
Sounds good.
But always great chatting it up, my man.
Appreciate it, y'all. Again, this is awesome. Love doing this every year.
Thank you for joining us, Jared. It's a pleasure to have you. And anyone doesn't know, Jared lost by 0.07 in the championship game last year to Justin. So Jared is the runner-up.
So close. So close.
So close.
So close.
In this year, in my projections, I am finishing dead last. Absolutely. All right. All right. I think up next we have JD, who's going to have to answer for all of the sniping of my queue. But in the meantime here, a little bit of recap. We had Brian Cobbs go off the board 705. Anthony Richardson had 706. Blake Watson, running back out of ODU at 7-7. Raheem Sanders, 7-8. 7-9 was Stribling, the wide receiver out of Washington State. Ja'Cory Brooks, we talked about at 7-10. 7-11 is Puka Nakau out of BYU. Robinson out of Kentucky at 7-12. Nathaniel Pete, the apparent running back one, transfer from Stanford at 801. Parker Washington, DTR, Leary, Corley, Aiden O'Connell, Jay Kaner, Brant Keithy, the tight end out of Utah at 808. And now at 809, Jared is on the board. I'll follow him up at 810. And then shortly, we will be joined here by JD Yonke for, the 8th round, the 9th round, the 10th round, some rounds.
All right. While you're thinking there, I'll say one thing. If anyone who's been paying attention, Sam Hartman, we mentioned before when we were talking about A.T. Perry, and he is still on the board. I was very interested to see how far he would fall. He was pretty much a top 2-round pick throughout this offseason, and unfortunately, the young man is out indefinitely. We don't know, and wishing him the best. But he has obviously fallen. We're late in the 8th round, and he is not off the board. So we'll see if he even gets drafted today. Because he was obviously, top 6, top 7 college fantasy football quarterback. And I think we've only had one Demon Deacon drafted. That was A.T. Perry back in round on the turn of 2 and 3 by Josh earlier. So let's see what happens. Matt, you just took. So who did you grab there, Matt?
Yeah, I was not really sure who I wanted to take here. I took Jabari Small. I want a piece of the Tennessee offense. Jabari Small is the cheapest potential piece of this Tennessee offense, potential real impact piece. And I think he's going to have some PPR upside in this offense as well. I think they're going to want to get the running back a little bit more involved. So happy about that one. And all right, we're bringing in JD. JD has been, I think he has access to my screen because he has just been sniping my queue all day. Needless to say, I love the roster, love the team. Thanks for joining us, my man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for the welcome. I'm glad you're not too upset about the technology I had. So no hard feelings.
Not a problem at all. How are we feeling so far? I talked a little bit about I liked your team, but we have Lou Nichols, Malik Cunningham, Marvin Harrison, Blake Corum. Oh, hold on. Will Rogers, not Blake Corum. I lined it up wrong. Will Rogers, Bennett, Brown, Cobbs, and Keithy. Feeling good about the overall build?
I'm feeling pretty good. It's a little different than I normally do with the 6-point passing touchdowns. I usually don't take quarterbacks this early, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. My running backs, they're all G5 running backs, which is a little interesting. So the first couple weeks of the season against Power 5, that's one thing. I might get off to a slow start. So let's see. I got to build up some wide receiver depth here. So hopefully when I'm on the call with you guys, hopefully I get a good one coming back to me.
That's a really good point, and it's something me and John have alluded to, but for folks who might not be as familiar with CFF, can you describe a little bit more about what you mean about group of 5 running backs and group of 5 players in general, early season versus their later season value?
Yeah, so group of 5, that's your teams that aren't in the Power 5 conferences, so your Sunbelt, CUSA, et cetera, max. So like Lou Nichols, for example, I took him with the 5th overall pick, and he's one of the top group of 5 running backs. But when you look at his schedule, he plays Oklahoma State week 1, and Oklahoma State had the number 1 rushing defense in the entire country last year. Like we saw Notre Dame in the bowl game, couldn't even run the ball against them, and everyone thinks they have the best offensive line in the country or top 3, and they couldn't run the ball against them. So is Lou Nichols going to go for 35 points week 1? Probably not. So you have to start thinking about, like, am I going to bench my number 1 overall pick week 1? Which, if you get a guy like CJ Stroud, you get a guy like Travion Henderson in the Power 5, where they have that advantage in the non-conference schedule early on in the season, this is not something you have to worry about. So it can be done if you manage your roster, but with all 3 group of 5s, right, it can get a little tricky.
So, Matt, you just took Tyler Van Dyke. We'll come back to you. And you were the second owner to go 2 quarterbacks. You took 2 in the first 4 rounds, if my memory serves me well.
Yep.
Tell me why you decided to go invest in the quarterback heavy while we had some people who waited. Tell us what you were thinking there, JD.
I'm sorry, I was just on the clock, John. I'm sorry, I was freaking out. Sorry, what was the question?
How dare you make your selection?
So you can announce your selection after I ask the question again. Sorry about that. I didn't know you were on the clock.
Okay.
You were the second owner to double dip at the quarterback position. Can you tell us why you decided in the first 4 rounds to take 2 quarterbacks, while obviously some owners have taken a much different route and waited? Tell us what you were thinking, why you went 2 in the top 4.
Yeah, so for that, I mean, I've done a number of drafts, and I kind of have my, mid-round target selected. Like, I feel fairly confident I'm going to get some wide receivers in like the 7th through 12th rounds that I'm going to feel pretty comfortable starting. So for me, it's like, I like that second round, there were 9 wide receivers selected. At one point, there were 13 wide receivers selected within 19 selections over the 2nd and 3rd round. So for my opinion, it's like, if they're all going now, I just hope I get one of the good ones, right? And whereas teams aren't selecting quarterbacks, that way I can get the quarterback of my selecting. Whereas at wide receiver, I'm just kind of like crossing my fingers and hoping I get a good one. So for me, it was kind of like purposeful. I can get 2 guys I know I'm going to start every week. Like I said, my running backs, the group of 5, I don't know if I can start a couple of them some weeks. But those 2 quarterbacks, like Will Rogers, you're going to throw the ball 50 times a game, you know what I'm saying? And obviously Cunningham can run pretty well. So my thought there, I guess it kind of fit well with the roster construction I kind of saw happening, as well as that, it kind of provides that floor for me every week is what I was thinking.
Yeah, you probably have a 50-point floor with an 80-point ceiling from those 2 quarterbacks every week. I mean, there's no question that early in the year when you have matchups with Will Rogers, he has that upside of 5 passing touchdowns, early for Mississippi State in the schedule. And Malik Cunningham can go off for, 3 passing, 2 rushing any day, which is just tremendous upside ceiling. So I like that too. So now have you taken a tight end? I think I'm coming up. Have you taken a tight end at this point? I didn't look at the board you did. Tell us why you took Keithy, my friend.
Yeah, so Brant Keithy is a guy I have as my number 6 tight end ranked, and there's been a mini tight end run going here. So in order for me to avoid out, because someone who's waited on tight end, I might end up just totally missing out on the tight end run. So I was comfortable because there was a little tight end run. I think I got him as like the 7th tight end. So it was about where I had him ranked. And I don't know, it's Utah. Andy Ludwig is, the biggest fan of tight ends of any offensive coordinator in the country. So I figure, he's probably not going to be a superstar at the position, but I feel like, he's averaged 10 or 11 fantasy points per game for the last 3 seasons. You know, he's an older college player with experience. So I just kind of like that bankable option. And, you know, there's some talk about they're going to work him at wide receiver this year. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I have that floor. And if he does work at a wide receiver, his role changes, then there's a little bit of upside as well.
I think he was at the end when I look at my tight end board. He was like the last tight end I would be comfortable with, where I think you have a nice floor every week. And you do have touchdown upside. I mean, basically, the offense is going to go, I think, through Thomas and Keithy. So you do have high upside. I think it was 2 years ago. Didn't he score 4 rushing touchdowns on the ground? Yeah, he had like some crazy number on the ground. So I do think they're going to get the ball in his hands in a few more different ways, which will also boost his draft stock a little bit if they can show his ability to help teams in more than just tight end. And I'm up. So go ahead, Matt, if you have a question for JD.
Yeah, well, it's
Ooh.
interesting. You know, we just talked about Tyler Harrell coming off the board here, so it's pretty interesting with that Alabama offense here. Just recapping really quickly, we had Burden go off the board 901, Mo Ibrahim 92. I took Van Dyke 93, Brock 94, Tracy Jennings, Keontae Thompson at 9.7, Clayton Tune 9.8, and Smith 9.9. JD, you know, I'm interested just to hear a little bit. We haven't talked to people really about just what it's like being in the draft room itself. What's the energy in there? Tell us about it. Is it a little competitive? Are we friendly?
It starts off friendly. There's been a few picks where, you know, you try to be encouraging, and if you select somebody and there's no encouragement, nobody says anything. It's like nobody liked that pick. What's happening? No, it's pretty good. It's really friendly. I can hear the guys cackling. I just went out in the hallways. I was a little quieter. I can hear them cackling and, you know, right in the door. So it's very friendly. I think the competition's going to come later on in the year. There's a little bit of smack talk because, of course, there's not. But,
of course,
you know, I saw even Heisey was talking smack to Jared in the chat because he's the champ. For now, Froton with the belt was amazing. Froton sets the energy level. If you guys have never been in a room,
Never been in a room.
That's fantastic. I know. I feel like I can always hear him in the background. You know, I'm interested to hear, and we have a good comment in the chat here, giving a shout out to that 9-1 selection of Luther Burden. You know, your general approach would be interesting to hear of, you know, highly recruited, highly touted freshmen, even ones who project, you know, at the top of their depth chart like Luther Burden does. Are you nervous about those players, or are you willing to kind of lean into that risk?
I'm definitely nervous about those players. I don't really get them very often. I think it's just more of a coin flip than I'm used to. You know what I'm saying? Like when I mentioned like the Will Rogers, the Cunningham thing, the Brant Keithy, I just like having that.
No problem.
I just like having that floor because these freshmen, they could ball out, and there's some very special freshmen. Like they're going to play him and Singleton. Like, you know, they're going to play, and you know, they're going to probably be stars at some point. It's just, for me, it's just a little bit too much of a guessing game. You know what I'm saying? We haven't really seen them fit in the offense. We haven't seen them at the college level. We haven't seen them if they're going to produce. We just don't really have any data to rely on. So generally for me, I stay away because I find like they always have their fans, and they should have their fans because they're like the best freshmen in the country, right? So I just find somebody's always taking them. Like, I'm sure if they last a little longer, I just find their prices a little inflated.
Oh, here's a good one too. Nice question to come off of here. Chandler Morris, a quarterback at a TCU, just came off the board. And I think Morris is a great example of, you know, somebody who hasn't really been that relevant the last couple of years, but a big scheme change, right? So former SMU head coach coming over to TCU. Are you willing to buy into those guys having a resurgence in a new scheme? Or are you, again, kind of just fading them a little bit for guys who are a little bit more predictable?
I love the scheme changes. That is one that I will try to take a swing on, because if I know a guy can play, he's just stuck in, you know, an ancient offense. Like we saw, and I know it's not a perfect example because it was this, you know, Western Kentucky had a year people probably won't repeat, but just that scheme change from their offense just not being good at all to being prolific fantasy game changer. So that is one I'll try to take a swing on for sure.
Fantastic. John, I'll toss it back to you. John, can you toss me a little producer note here? Can you toss me the St. Jude's link again when you get a chance?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Give me a couple moments. I'll get that to you. Yeah. JD, last year I had the pleasure of working with you for waiver wire gemstones on Fantrax, but I know you've gone on to bigger and better things. Tell the what are you doing this year? How can people follow you, and what are you producing for the college fantasy football industry?
Yeah, that was a blast getting to do that with you last year, John. That was definitely a highlight of getting into the fantasy industry, because I've read that for when I was barely playing CFF and just trying to learn the ropes, and it kind of showed me the ropes. So yeah, John's a legend out there. Anyone you're watching this stream, I'm sure you're following John, but if you're not, follow John, follow Matt. These guys they know what they're doing. Yeah, so I'm working at Debbie Watch now. So I joined the Debbie Watch crew.
Nice.
They have a CFF part of their site, so I'm running the CFF part. So we did conference previews. We're going to be doing, waiver wire, everything like that. So I'm very excited to be heading that. And then I know Josh works at Fantasy Points as well. He was on earlier. I'm also going to be contributing a little bit to their package as well. So really excited about this year. It's going to be busy, but a lot of fun.
That's right. You did some conference previews for Fantasy Points or something I saw, right? What conferences did you break down for them, my friend?
So Pac-12, Big 12, and Mountain West, because, West Coast football. Not everybody's into it, but that's where I reside.
There we go.
Hey, I'm on the East Coast, and I love the West Coast football. So I think you're the only guy from California out here, right?
I think so. Well, no, Froton's from San Diego.
Oh, that's right. Froton, San Diego. That's right. We have two California.
All right. Looks like I'm on the board here, and I have a decision to make.
Oh, Matt's up. So, JD, did you just make a pick? Oh, tell us why you took two wide receivers. You were talking about you had a lot of G5 wide receivers. Now you took two Power 5. Tell us why you took those two players, and you told us strategically why you were worried about. So tell us what you got here.
Yeah, so those wide receivers I had two big outside guys. So I had Marvin Harrison and Brian Cobbs are two big outside guys, right? And in PPR, they don't really give you that floor I was talking about. They can have big weeks, right? But they're not really catching 10 passes a game, most likely. So that's why I got Tracy in the 9th round from Purdue, because he's kind of a slot guy. They're going to use him at running back a little bit. So I figure he kind of gives me a floor. He'll probably catch, 6 or 7 passes a game. And then I went with Isaiah Nair from Texas, another kind of boomer bust outside guy. So my wide receiver is going to be a little boomer bust, but I like all these guys. I'm pretty confident in them. So fingers crossed they produce for me when I start them. And when I sit them, that's when they have their floor week, hopefully.
I think Tracy's an interesting player because we know we love the system, right? But I think there's been a lot of different movement. I think you could hit huge here with Tracy if he's the guy peppered with the targets. I like that. And there, I think you're going to get some huge weeks out of him, but I think he's going to be very up and down.
I agree.
All right, JD, I think we're going to go ahead and get Shane in here next. But thank you for joining us. It was great to break down your picks. Good insight, good selection so far. Worst of luck to you with the rest of the draft. And
yeah, thank you guys. Thank you guys very much for having on for me. And I like that Payne Durham 10th round. We were just talking about Purdue. We love the system they're going to throw it. That's a great pick. So I
needed I couldn't, as John would say, the proverbial bagel could not be on my roster. So that was the selection there.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, JD.
Thanks, JD.
All right.
I'm trying to find that link for my friend Matt here. And
we're cruising here. We're swinging into the 11th round. We're officially on the second half of the draft. By the way, the folks watching, the numbers are just as high as when we started. So thank you, man. I love it. The chat is still going off. We'll have to get John. You'll have to ask JD if he's doing DFS stuff too this year. We got a question in the chat.
Okay.
So when he gets back to the main room there, perhaps we could get that answer for you.
And Matt, I just sent you the tweet to your DM with the link to the St. Jude Children's Hospital.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
John, Raheem Jarrett in the 11th round. I'm a little lower on Raheem Jarrett, but I feel like that's further down than he normally goes.
It's funny, Matt. I've had him in my queue this whole time. I was hoping to get him in the 11th round. I know he's been falling. I'm high on him. I have him in my top 30 wide receivers, but I am definitely higher than most on him. So I was looking to get value, but I think you got a great value, especially early in the year when Maryland has a very soft schedule. So I think he's a player, if nothing else, you play him in the opening month and he's going to have a couple huge games for you. Interesting. I just want to say there's been A couple interesting picks here. Garrett Schrader, who loses a lot of value in this format because he's as my good teammate Eric Froton would say, he's not really good at passing. So 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 Schrader is not likely to throw for more than 15 touchdowns at 53% accuracy. Now, if he gets the 1,000 yards rushing and 12, 15 touchdowns, you're fine. But you are banking on the running game. So usually Schrader goes early. So it's a nice, the value could be there. But in this, like, I like Devin Leary much more than I like Garrett Schrader in this format with the 6-point touchdown. And if you're in a league that only has a 3 or 4-point passing touchdown, you will probably see Devin Leary go past Schrader. But in this format, Schrader drops a lot. So, and Jared Dagey is Mike Bainbridge. We haven't talked about his team because he's not here. He's on the road in Michigan. But he went back to back with Clayton Tune from Houston, who I know he loves. Tune I like also as an American Athletic Conference fan. And then Jared Dagey, he's looking for the home run there. They switched offensive coordinators, and he is replacing Bailey Zappi at Western Kentucky. So Dagey does have that ceiling of 35 to 40 passing touchdowns, which in this format could be very huge.
Now, John, a big reaction out of the group here for the Tay McWilliams pick in the 10th round made by the Campus to Canton team.
Ooh.
Any thoughts inside there on getting into the Baylor offense?
Well, if Tay McWilliams is the guy, and it looks like he should be, but I have not seen an official report yet. If he's the guy, he should get 250 carries if he's on the field the whole time for the Baylor Bears. So the ceiling there is a great pick in the 10th round, obviously playing in the defensively challenged Big 12. So that's a great pick there by Williams. But he's got to be on the field for all 12 games. And as long as he's the lead back, I think you're in great. There's a great upside there. Why is someone calling me? How dare them?
And we by the way, we have Shane coming up on deck here, so I think Shane's joining us in just a moment.
I do think Shane's coming up soon,
which will be
and
interesting.
We'll let
he had
him.
A pretty fun draft.
Yeah, we'll let Shane discuss his draft and his last couple picks. I'm coming up in 2 picks, Matt. So Eric Froton is in the clock now. We had back-to-back running backs just go. Mike Bainbridge took Kendre Miller. I think it's Kendre, if my memory serves me. And then Evan Hull, the running back from Northwestern, went to Dwight Peoples. So we have Froton on the clock. And Shane just stepped outside to go online, so he should be going in the room in a second. And Froton looks like he's ready to make his pick.
Now, here's what I'm interested in, because we have Shane coming up next. But after Shane comes up, we have the Campus to Canton team scheduled. Are all 4 going to join us? Is this going to be like a 4-part interview here?
I'm going to take my UMass boy.
There.
Come on down, baby.
We're seeing a large display of enthusiasm because it is a UMass selection. So Eric Froton, a Minuteman himself, had a boisterous celebration there for the Merriweather selection in the 11th round. Now,
I will say for 14 years of playing college fantasy football, there's never been a UMass player celebrated so vocally in any draft that I've ever been in. So Merriweather, and you know what though? He is value here. He should be the lead back. I'm up, so if you can, why don't you introduce Shane, Matt, while I make my pick here?
Shane, I see you got the loud shirt memo of the weekend, right?
Look, if you're gonna be here, you got to do it in style. You know what I'm saying?
Shane coming to us from Draft Countdown, Devi Marketplace. I'm probably forgetting something, but Shane, thanks for jumping on, my man.
No, I feel so good about being in this draft. I appreciate you guys including me, and it's been a blast so far. So I'm not as CFF experienced as some of the drafters in here, but hopefully I'm holding my own.
All right. Well, we had to find somebody less experienced than me. That was the goal. And so we found Shane and we said, how can we bump Matt up in the standings? One person this year. But in all seriousness, looking at Shane's team so far, we have Rasheen Ali, Tavian Thomas, Rasheed Rice, Dante Cephas, Jaden Bray, Chase Brown, Anthony Richardson, Jay Kaner, Ali Jennings, Marquise Cooper, and Jaden Whaley. It's a really well-rounded team so far. What are your initial impressions? Are we happy with it?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Definitely starting off with some of those, smaller school, the non-Power 5 guys, even, Tavian Thomas, Jaden Bray, not exact Utah and Oklahoma State win, but not exactly known for big offenses. I was pretty happy, I think, to get just some rock solid, gonna have easy matchups weekly because playing in those G5 schools, like you're gonna be able to start them week to week. So I'm pretty happy. Try to be pretty balanced outside of quarterback. I wanted to wait there because I felt like there was some good guys later, and I feel pretty good about it.
Now, Shane, we have a question. We have multiple people asking in the chat if you stole that shirt from Moxley. We need an answer.
Moxley, he didn't even break out the Hawaiian shirt today. I was pretty offended. I thought we were gonna match it up here, so
He left you hanging.
I think he's gonna be trying to steal my shirt by the end of this. That's what I think.
That is fair enough here. And interesting here on the turn, 11-12 EJ Smith and 12-1 Kanata Mumfield, both guys that I really like. So I'm going to be feeling very validated by the reigning champ making those selections here. Shane, I know you are a Pittsburgh native, correct? Are we excited about Mumford this season?
Yeah, I mean, he looked great in the spring game. He was excellent. And then, once Addison left, he's going to slide right into that role in that offense. I think Keaton Slovis can be good enough to make him very, very productive. I think it's going to be some huge games from Mumfield this year for the Pitt Panthers. So the city's excited about Pitt after, winning the ACC and doing what they did. It was pretty unexpected last year.
You heard it here, folks. Keaton Slovis can be good enough. I need that on a t-shirt. That's going on our clothing line, John.
Slovis can be good enough. He will be good enough.
Now, it'll be interesting, Shane. Going back to Mumfield, I'm excited. I'm going to go to the Vols game when they're in Pitt this year, so I'm going to get to see him live. And other than seeing the Panthers get beat down, Mumfield's one of the guys I'm most excited to see in person.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think just the way he runs routes and just gets separation, obviously was top notch in the MAC, right? But I think even moving to the ACC, he's not going to be facing these elite corners every week.
Wide receiver friendly.
Yeah, he's the best target that they have. They're going to have to pepper him with a lot of balls there.
Now, it's interesting here. Styles just came off the board. Lorenzo Styles. And John, I know you're a big Notre Dame fan, and I'm forgetting, the name is slipping me. Is it Davis? Their other wide receiver was reported with a season-ending injury this year. So Styles potentially a great value in the 12th round. Shane, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Well, I like Lorenzo Styles for sure. I think I think even if Avery Davis would have played, I think Styles would have been that primary downfield target. That's what Tyler Buckner likes to throw. So I hope John's excited about him.
Oh, I love Lorenzo Styles from a Devy standpoint. I like him from a long-term upside. Now, I think one of the reasons he's fallen is he didn't have a great freshman year, and we have a coaching change, but I think the talent is there, and I don't see why Notre Dame wouldn't pepper their best offensive player, possibly with a bunch of targets. I do like him a ton, but there is change. I think that's why he's dropped in these drafts. But Shane, you're a history teacher like myself, but more importantly, you work at Draft Countdown, and you're one of the best in the business. I know you work so hard. I think, didn't you do top 700 prospects already? Something like that.
Is that all? Is that all, Shane?
For the class of 2023 already. You're one of the best, but I invited you in, and it was great that you joined us. But how do you think college fantasy football helps you as someone who actually just loves the entire NFL draft process? Tell me how you kind of connect the two.
Look, I think one of the things that gets lost by a lot of Devy players, a lot of NFL draft people, is that being productive in college gets you drafted. I mean, how
Yeah.
Sky Moore, these are guys that weren't on the radar. But if you're playing CFF, and I think it's what's helped me is watching some of these these G5 receivers, especially running backs like Rasheen Ali and Lou Nichols are legitimate NFL prospects, potential top 100 picks, but they're not getting talked about like that. The people that know them are the people playing college fantasy football. That's helped me because now I'm more tuned into that. And I think it all connects a lot to the NFL draft that people are still catching up on.
I completely agree. I think it helps you with
Shane, you're on the
systems.
clock, by the way. I just want to make
Shane's
sure you
on
know.
the clock.
No, thanks.
Okay, you
I
got
mean,
the pick in. Another Pitt player.
Who'd he take?
Big Pitt round. I'm going Gavin Bartholomew,
Ooh,
tight end. I think he's the number 2 option on Pitt's offense, and I think, man, he's going to score double-digit touchdowns this year. So he was the tight end I wanted, waiting on the position. Hopefully, I'm not going to get those bagels too much, John. So,
it's funny because Bartholomew is a fascinating Devy prospect. He's probably not talked about in the Devy community, but if you believe in like the early breakout age as a true freshman, and I forgot the Pitt tight end last year, he shared the tight end
Lucas
position.
Kroll, yeah,
That's it, Lucas Kroll.
DFS dream.
So if you look at what Bartholomew did as a true freshman with an upperclassman in the school, he had an unbelievable freshman year, and athletically and physically he looks the part. He's not getting talked about. Shane, have you been able to look at him? I like him for CFF, obviously, but what does your NFL radar, Devy radar, say about that young man?
Look, I mean, what it says is, like you talked about, you have a guy that's 260 pounds and moves like he's 240. He can leap. I like his. I think his vertical is going to be off the charts when he ultimately goes to the NFL. And like that's Keaton Slovis is what he does in the red zone. He's going to throw that ball up. So I think Bartholomew is going to be raking in touchdowns. I really do.
Yeah, I think he's a guy, like, if you have a 5-man Devy league, or depending on how deep, why I don't draft tight ends. If you've listened to me on other shows, I just bypass in Devy because they're so hard. But like, you can get Gavin Bartholomew for basically nothing in a Devy community right now. And that value, I know your teammate Kane always talks about value, right? So you could get a tight end that you take in the 6th round, and he might be like a Devy 2nd round pick in a year or two, because the athleticism and the production could be there. And I think he has huge upside. So I love players like that in Devy who are way under the radar, but have shown that they can produce at a very early age.
Yeah. No, it's great. And tight end, like you said, it's a tough position to get that value. But if you find a top guy, I mean, I drafted Kyle Pitts in high school at one point. Like, it can work out. So it happens.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What would that have been, like 2019 or something? Was Kyle Pitts coming out of high school back then?
Yeah. I actually drafted him and Brevin Jordan in 2019. So that's my one claim to fame that I can do.
And hey, look, at both of them are in the NFL. I like Brevin Jordan as an NFL deep sleeper. Yeah. He's a very fascinating player from the University of Miami, if you don't know who he is. So Shane, tell us about the overall. You this first year you joined the Kings Classic. You said you were semi-new to CFF. Did you have a strategy when you jumped in? You were pick number 5 or 6 in the draft? What were you thinking at the beginning of the draft?
Yeah, I think going in, my thought was that I could get some quarterback value and upside later. So I wanted to really hit the running back position pretty hard. I thought receiver, round 2 was full of receivers, but I thought we'd get a little more in round 1, and I could maybe tag some of that running back value, and then just keep drafting a bunch of receivers to be able to swap in week to week. So I think I'll have a good starting lineup. I think I'm going to have to make some tough weekly decisions, and that's going to determine how good I do.
Excellent. I like how you built the team. I love the fact that you are not shy about group of 5 players. What I've seen over 14 years, sometimes newbies to this game, they overrate Power 5 players in a college fantasy football format. And I learned this lesson from Julio Jones, I don't know, over a decade ago at Alabama. Drafting him, and he was just not a good CFF wide receiver, and he obviously went on to NFL start. I mean, you saw all the talent, but at the time Alabama was a dominant running game. They had this top flight wide receiver who had moments of greatness. But college fantasy football wise, I was taking him like in the second round. And then there was Michael Crabtree, right? Playing now, they're a power 5, but you saw the difference in systems. So I love the fact that you were very comfortable saying, hey, I know these group of 5 systems and teams and players. And I think that's a hurdle that many new players in this game have something they can't overcome.
Yeah, I think it's tough when you hear the hype and you're getting Alabama highlights all the time, and they're definitely productive. But man, it's really easy. Things get tough in the Power Five. Like when Alabama's playing Georgia, do I start everyone? Do I not? And I think a lot of times when you have these gang of 5 players, they might play one hard defense a year. So if they're productive, they're going to be productive every week, and I think it helps you maybe mitigate some of those bad games even.
Absolutely. I love that. Matt, you just took a pick before you asked Shane the question. Who'd you take? You took my guy. He was in my queue, brother.
Which one? I took Egbuka
Oh.
on the 12 turn and Marks on the way back.
It is Marks in this format. He is a great flex player. Tell us
for
why
the
you took
brand.
Marks.
It's got to be for the brand. You can't, if I had walked out of this draft without Marks, and I feel like I was actually pretty conservative about waiting until the 13th to take him, I just would have been an absolute fraud. So I had to take him. But I have to tell you, I was a little conflicted with wide receiver. I haven't been doing that great of a job with it. I took Downs and Franklin early, but I had ignored it since then. I took Raheem Jarrett in the 11th. And then I just figured I'd take a shot with Egbuka here. It might be a year early. And so in round 12, you know what? You're playing with Sharks. You kind of got to take some home run swings, right? It might be a year early with Egbuka for CFF value, but I'm taking a shot. I'm taking a shot on his talent. I love what we've seen from him in flashes. And we know Ohio State has the ability to support 3 wide receivers. So you don't necessarily have to choose between Egbuka and Marvin Harrison. Marvin Harrison went in the 3rd round, Egbuka in the 12th. I know Julian Fleming is supposed to be part of this offense, but he was supposed to be a part of this offense for the last 3 years. So I'll go ahead and take the shot there.
I love it. And Shane, I had 2 guys in my queue when I took Frank Harris as my second quarterback. You take the other quarterback, and I was hoping to get him as a 3rd. So tell us who you took, and tell us why you took him, because I like him here a lot.
Yeah, I took Jaron Hall, quarterback out of BYU, as my 3rd quarterback. And in this format with the 6-point passing touchdowns, we know this system is friendly. We saw Zach Wilson 2 years ago take that step, over 3,500 passing yards, over 30 passing touchdowns. And Hall played 10 games and had over 2,500 yards. Like if that bumps up, that improves. We're talking 3,000. We're talking 25 passing touchdowns. I think as a QB3, it's a lot worse that you can do. It's kind of a nice floor, especially with me. I took Anthony Richardson as my QB1, a little risky. I think Hall is a guy, if I'm uncertain, I can plug in and feel pretty good about.
Fantastic.
And Shane,
Now, John, I think we could talk to Shane all day long, but I'm looking at how many rounds we have left in them. We still have a good chunk of guests to go here. So unfortunately, I think we're going to have to cut Shane off, but I think we'll still be able to see him on screen for a few minutes with that shirt. I think it's just going to,
well, you'll find it in the crowd, baby.
We're going to be able to pick him out of the draft room a lot easier now on that angle of things. So we have Campus to Canton coming up next, but Shane, thank you so much for joining us. I will let you get back into the main draft room here. And I don't know what's going to happen, John. Do we have the whole crew coming here? Did they select a volunteer as tribute to talk to us? What's going to be going on here with the Campus to Canton group?
The Campus to Canton group, a lot of them have left the room right now, but we have 2 remaining. We have Chris Moxley and we have Colin Decker. They're both still here. So at least one of them is jumping on right now if they want to jump on and talk to us. But,
and John, off the board here, we have to give an update. It was Sam Hartman went in the 13th round. Dwight took him in round 13. And I have to tell you, if folks were paying attention, which they probably weren't because this was kind of a minute detail, but I took a while to make my Marks pick because I was debating if the 13th round was the right time to take the risk on Sam Hartman. And if I hadn't already had 3 quarterbacks, I think I would have taken him. So he was going to come off the board for me in the 14th. I thought that was the right risk point. Dwight took him even earlier, which I think is a really smart risk to take there in the 13th round. We have an undetermined, very low detail idea of when Sam Hartman is going to be back, which could be risky, but it also could be just a couple weeks.
I think right now, the reality in a CFF league, the risk is worth the return. Obviously, our number one concern is for the young man to get healthy, but it said indefinitely, but it has not. The team has not said he's out for the year. So if he does come back around week 4, that can be a huge boost to your team to put him into the lineup, because we obviously know the Demon Deacons are an unbelievable school. And I just want to say, Eric literally sniped me, and snipe is when someone takes your guy one pick before. He took Hassan Boyden out of Western or Eastern Michigan. I wanted him so bad. So I ended up with Xavier Hutchinson and said, kind of not in love with him, but I think there's a nice floor with Hutchinson. I mean, thank you. I mean, he's a player. He'll definitely be in my lineup throughout the year. I have been reading more positive things. I mean, it seems like they're going to get him the ball more. So it was between those two players. So do we have the Campus to Canton team on yet by any chance, Matt? I know they're setting up.
Nope, they're not in the
Okay,
background
fine.
yet. They don't want to talk to us. We will take it personally. No, I'm just
So,
kidding, of course. The Campus to Canton team is on deck, by the way. We also have Mike Bainbridge, Eric Froton, Dwight, and the reigning champion Justin will wrap it up for us. So we do have still a great lineup going, and I've mentioned this before, but even more viewers on the second half of the stream. So very cool. Folks are definitely still tuning in, and go ahead and share it out for us if you're watching live on YouTube. John, a nice question in the chat, and this would be a good one for us to chat about, but also for our viewers to drop into the chat. Jared asked who we feel like is the biggest reach of the draft so far. So this is permission to roast somebody in the chat.
I don't want to roast someone too. I guess I'm the one who's bringing the comments. I don't mean it. I'm just so now I'm the one. So
and
now
we
I'm
have,
the one who's supposed to.
We have our Campus to Canton folks joining us as well here.
Oh, so, there they are,
guys. Thanks for jumping on. For those watching, let us know who is representing here from C2C.
So you can go, Colin. This is Colin Decker, Chris Moxley. We're struggling here.
So why are you struggling, gentlemen? Tell us what the challenge is.
So it takes a lot of minds to complete a draft for us, but we only have 2 right now. We'll have 2 right now, so that's a little bit of a struggle. But we also have a computer that doesn't have a webcam. So
okay,
so we're on the phone, coming live.
Yeah, you have the selfie angle coming. We like it, though. We appreciate it. We feel like we're on vacation in Ohio with you. It's just the full experience here.
Beautiful, beautiful city of Canton.
The beautiful city of Canton. Guys, how are we feeling about the draft so far? You mentioned it. We've had 4 or 5 guys in and out of the room. Is quantity good for you, or does it just make things chaotic?
Yeah, they're just agents of chaos. Just everyone's having it's a great time just to be with everybody and chat and go back and forth with them and what their thoughts are on players. Just kind of inform me. I think 4 or 5 of our picks have been like, yeah, one of them really likes this guy and we trust them. So I enjoy having them around.
He's a little bit of a Frankenstein roster.
Yeah.
So, gentlemen, I love your site. I love you guys as new contributors to the. You've created a whole new format with the C2C, but you're also promoting college fantasy football. And there's just, NFL, Devy, Dynasty. You kind of wrap it all together. So, but tell us, you had the whole meeting of the minds there earlier. There was like 5 or 6 of you. Were you talking about when Jared's yelling at me to stop taking my receiver? Sorry, Jared. Tell us what you guys thought. This is the first year you joined the league, which is amazing to have you on the team this year. Tell us what you were thinking going in from like I know Chris is the coach of the team, but did you talk with other people? What did you think coming down that you're going to do in the Kings Classic League?
We had a meeting of the minds last night.
Was that after 10 beers or was it 11 beers? Where were
2
we?
a.m.
We were in
The Imperial
the
Room.
Imperial Room,
2 a.m.
2 a.m., and we came up with our strategy there. With we talked about what we wanted to do in the beginning of the draft. We really wanted to get a quarterback. The 6 passing touchdowns made a big difference for us, and I felt that running back was probably going to be available late, and I think that's come to fruition. I think we really like the guys that we were able to draft. Like Dedrick Parson came late, Tay McWilliams. Those are guys that I think can put up RB1 seasons. And when we had the opportunity to draft Caleb Williams, he was someone that I think he's going to pass for a bunch, and I think he's rushing upside. So I think QB1 overall finish is firmly in the conversation for him. So I was excited to get him where we did.
Now,
Yeah,
you
that was one of
mentioned
our
Tay McWilliams, and we did have a question in the chat here about who is responsible for the Tay McWilliams pick. They think it was Felix. Jay thinks it was Felix. Is that correct?
I think we all honestly really like him.
Yeah.
A
Felix
consensus
is,
pick.
knowing Felix, he's the most loud and vocal, obviously.
Yes. Mocked and ridiculed.
He's mocked and ridiculed if we don't give him the credit. But I think we've all kind of come around on him being the RB1 there, and obviously that's a really, really valuable system to have. You can take him, Colin.
I can take him here?
You can take him.
Live on camera? I'm allowed to take my guy?
You're allowed to take a guy live
All right,
on camera.
this is
There we go.
this is the Colin pick. This is the only one that Mox has allowed me to actually make right here. Here
Oh
comes.
boy.
Here it comes. There he is. Big
Oh,
upside.
McMillan.
Big upside.
Okay. Now
Tell
tell
us
me,
why.
is it the coaching change that gives you the confidence here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, DeBoer wide receiver one's pretty productive in fantasy. You saw it from Cropper. I think McMillan can play the Cropper role this year. And I mean, getting him in the 14th round. I mean, if I had my druthers, I would have taken him in, round 8, 7. But that's where Mox was like, yeah, that's a guy that we could draft. But getting him in the 14th round, getting a potential DeBoer wide receiver one, I think is big.
Yeah, I mocked Colin earlier, like you said. He pointed to him and said we should go this way, and I said no. That's someone you can draft, sure. But no,
Well, what's helpful is that you all collect great ADP, and it's available on the C2C site. And so you can say, I love Jalen McMillan, and it's round 7. And then Colin can say, all right, but we can get him in the 14th.
exactly. And I make fun of Colin and Jalen Phillip all the time, but he's right. I mean, Kalen DeBoer passes at like a 65% neutral game script pass rate. And I love Michael Penix. I don't know, but I know that the targets are going to be there. So, I mean, I think he has a lot of upside. I don't hate the pick like one might think I do, but I really understand. And I think the Cropper comparison is pretty apt. I do think that's the role he's going to play. And so I'm excited to see what Washington does this year. I think they're going to be a lot more exciting than the Jimmy Lake experience was.
It's hard to get
Now,
worse.
guys,
Yours.
we had a
hard
question
to
in the
get
chat
worse.
here. Oh, yeah, sorry. We had a question come in for the chat. It's not draft related, but what's the best thing you've done so far in Canton itself? I mean, Canton is in your name.
That's
Good point.
Um,
I think for me, it's definitely been meeting everybody. I mean, we are rolling squad deep here. There's 14 of us from the site that are here between all the founders, all the contributors, and some of us we met last year, but just seeing everybody here. We met Jarek for the first time in person, and we've been working together for almost 2 years now. So getting to meet everybody from the site, and then also obviously meeting like all the other people that we talk to online on a regular basis, Froton and Josh and Yonky and Nick, CFP winning edge, like all those guys, like just great to meet everybody.
yeah, that's seriously. I mean, these are people you talk to all the time, and you share ideas with them. Then you sit down for 2 hours and you talk about Jalen Glover's podcast.
Gentlemen, one question for you. I saw you decide to invest in the tight end early. I waited, I think, one round after you. Tell us what you love about Trig, because I also know campus to Canton, right? And I think Trig is one of the biggest risers. Tell us why you chose Trig, and what do you think of them for NFL success in the future?
So I'm early tight end pretty much in all drafts I do because I think that there is a positional edge because everybody has to start one. So if you're just scoring 5 or 6 more points than your opponent every week, huge value. So I like going tight end early. And I think the top 3 to me is a pretty clear tier. I think it's Bowers. I think it's Mayer. I think it's Trig. And I was happy to get either of them. But when I saw they were available in the third, like I probably would have taken one of them in the second if I was picking late second. I'll let Colin speak more to his Devi upside. But I mean, I know you love him.
Yeah, I mean, we all love Trig at the site here. I mean, I think his CFF production this year is going to be good. I mean, he could potentially lead that team in yards, with the connection that he has with Jackson Dart already. But then, you flip it on the Devi angle, and he's got good size. He's listed at like 6'3", 6'4", 240 already. So that's, Evan Ingram-ish size. And I think he can be that type of a player too. He's got that type of receiving ability, that type of athleticism. I don't know if you know this, but he played basketball like all the other great tight ends, the Antonio Gates, Tony Gonzalez's. So yeah, I think he's been a pretty steady riser all offseason for all of us over there.
We got people moving in here. I happen to like Trig a ton too, so I like that value there. All right, gentlemen, is there anything you'd like to promote for our listeners before you get off here today?
I mean, just, the site, campusdecanton.com. We got a lot of different stuff going on over there all the time, constantly trying to pump out new content. We got the draft guides that we came out with, the CFF guide, the Devi guide, the freshman and supplemental guides. Those are going to be making a repeat appearance next year too. We got all the tools, the coaching tool. That's been something we've had open this whole time, and just looking at some of the coaching trends, and like Chris mentioned, DeBoer's neutral game script pass rate. You can find that on our site too. All of our rankings, ADP, everything like that.
Yeah.
So one last question: does Chris get the belt, or does it literally go to the entire team? We are playing for the belt. Chris, am I sending this to you if you win, or to the Campus to Canton office?
The Campus Canton office. It's a PO box in the Cayman Islands.
Might not fit. You know what, John? We might not need to worry about it. I think that's coming my way. So. All right. Thanks so much, fellas. We appreciate it. We'll let you get off selfie mode here, get back into the draft room.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks,
this is a great event, guys.
So I will, for those who are watching, I no longer have the cell phone is on low battery mode, so we won't have a picture
we won't
from
have
the draft
room.
But we got Mike
John
Bainbridge
forgot
up,
his
so that's even
charger,
better.
an
That's
amateur
even better.
move.
Yes. Low cell phone charge.
But we do have Mike Bainbridge with us. Mike, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, you guys can hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
All right, perfect. We had issues last year, so I was nervous if you guys going to hear me this time.
We got you in here. Mike is just an absolute wealth of CFF knowledge. We could have done the full live stream with him, just giving us insight and analysis as a play-by-play.
That probably wouldn't have been a good idea. So you mentioned earlier that, production time was moving a little slower this time. And I started drinking beers at the start of this. So we're about 3 deep right now. So probably wouldn't have been a good idea to have me on the whole time.
He's going to be tipping over by the time we get to round 16 here. How are we feeling about the squad so far here? We're rolling pretty deep, so I don't know if I want to read off 14 names, but it started with Gibbs, Price, Cobbs, Edwards, Swen, Flowers, Sanders, and Corley.
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I didn't really follow my rankings per se, just because typically when I do these drafts, it's a half point PPR. So we stray away a little bit when it goes to full point PPR. So getting guys like Gibbs, Edwards, guys that are just high volume pass catchers is kind of my strategy here.
And I noticed you waited on quarterback, right? So you were one of the teams that waited. You took Toon in the 9th was your first quarterback, and Daggy in the 10th. Are you feeling comfortable rolling with those guys? And another difference in our scoring format is the 6-point touchdowns for passing.
Somewhat comfortable, yeah. Tune especially. I've kind of made it known that if there's a Kenny Pickett like quarterback this year that takes a massive jump, I think it is Clayton Tune, just because
Yes.
how many weapons he had this year. Like last year was literally only Nathaniel Dell, and now you got Matthew Golden and Keyshawn Carter back and all those weapons. So I feel good with Tune. Daggy is, and you mentioned it too, Matt, is kind of an upside pick here. Do we expect Bailey Zappi type numbers? No. But if you can get 80% of that, like that's going to be a staple in your lineup, especially in a 6-point passing league.
And you are on the clock here, so we'll let you go ahead and make your selection. But I'm sure John has a question fired up for you afterwards. I can see he's just thinking on it here. I can see the wheels turning.
Yeah, but I'll wait for Mike to make his selection and announce it. And
There we go.
so go ahead. Tell us
Oh,
what you
Jordan
did, Mike. Who'd you
Travis.
take? Why Jordan Travis?
That was in honor of my partner at the CFF site, Joe DeSalvo. He's a lot higher on Jordan Travis than I am. But I mean, all reports are good coming out of the camp. He's the surefire QB1. Last year he was battling Mackenzie Milton, but he scored 25-ish points per game the last 4 or 5 weeks last year. So, given his running ability, just kind of a solid QB3 in this format.
That's so funny you say that. And, I am sub to the CFF site, folks. I got to tell you, if nothing else, the wealth of information in their Discord is well worth the sub. But I did notice looking at the projections that Jordan Travis was really high up there. And so I was glad we got a little bit of insight there.
Yeah, it's a tough battle. And we always tell this when we go on a podcast, like projections versus rankings is you could do a whole podcast just on that.
Oh, yeah.
Where, I mean, some guys are just going to project super high because of the system they play in. But, how comfortable do you feel with a Jordan Travis giving you, 25 points per game every single week? So it's a balance there between projections and rankings.
But me and John did talk about this a little bit earlier, but I think folks don't maybe understand fully how quarterback friendly the ACC is. I think we think of the Big 10 and the Big 12 and the Pac-12 as more defense. What did John calls it? Defensively challenged. But the ACC is very quarterback friendly in terms of being able to put up big numbers.
Yeah. Is that because their defenses are trash outside of Clemson? I mean, maybe, but yeah. I mean, we did the 50-teamer draft in Thor Nystrom's league, and I was in the ACC. And it is a deep league with quarterbacks. The tough thing is you got Clemson. Who's going to be the starter there? We think DJU probably gets game 1, but then Cade Klubnik comes in and maybe takes over at some point. You get the North Carolina situation where people are kind of throwing in Drake May as a shoe-in. Personally here, I don't think that's necessarily guaranteed with Jacoby Criswell. So deep league, there's still some still some questions left to be answered.
And while we're on North Carolina, I would love to get your take on that running back room, because I believe none of their running backs have been taken yet.
Yeah, so we have British Brooks as it's almost a placeholder at this point. He's going to get the first carry most likely, and we like what he saw last year against NC State. I think rushed for 100+ yards, but you kind of listen to the podcast, read the articles, and it's just all the freshmen talk, right? George Petway, Amarian Hampton. So
right.
We're adjusting our rankings now. We still have British Brooks, but we're bumping up those freshmen at this point.
Mike, there's 2 players I liked. I think you got real good value in late in the draft that I want you to talk about a little bit. One is Kendre Miller out of TCU, the running back. I think getting him in the 11th round is a great value. And Sam Laporta, you waited a long time to draft the tight end, but I would assume the Iowa has been very productive at the tight end position. So tell us what you were looking at, why you thought that they were worth those picks that late in the draft, my friend.
Yeah, I'll start with Laporta. I mean, I was actually going to wait even further on tight ends just because there's guys like Ben Sims and some other guys that I won't spoil for the guys that are currently drafting. But I like some of the later tight ends, so I was actually going to wait. I was just a value pick, right? Laporta's the last top 10 tight end for me sitting there, so had to scoop him up. Kendra Miller is a guy that, you kind of worry about the running back by committee maybe, but everything coming out of camp is that he's going to be the surefire running back one in a high-powered offense under Sonny Dykes.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that offense earlier, but when it comes to scheme changes, when it comes to expecting a TCU offense, I think I've been a little slower than I normally am to accept the scheme change in TCU. Like, I don't know if it's just burned into my brain, but are you feeling comfortable moving forward with the Horned Frogs?
I'm comfortable moving forward with Quentin Johnston, and
Okay.
obviously Kendra Miller, but quarterback is still a little dicey here, and
Yeah.
we're starting to see maybe some separation. Chandler Morris has gotten the first team reps, I think, at least the last 2 days, if not more at this point, and that hadn't happened yet in camp. So maybe somebody's starting to separate from the pack here, which obviously if somebody starts to separate is just good for the entire offense as a whole. But I think they'll be better this year, obviously, and then I think it just continues to progress as they learn that system.
Fantastic. John, what do you got?
No, Mike, are you going to go double tap at the tight end? Or are you going to, what are you thinking? Like, I guess I don't want to give it away, but there's not a lot of value here. Since you waited so long to get a tight end, is that something you're normally going to double tap or wait on the waiver wire till the bye week? What do you think about, because you waited so long, what are you going to do there maybe?
Yeah, I'll probably wait at this point. I feel consistent. Sam Laporta is going to give you 10 points a game at least. So I'll probably go quarterback here. I doubt Eric Croton's listening to this because he's probably chatting away in the room. So I don't care about spoiling my pick here.
Croton just attacked.
So if Spencer Sanders is available, I'll probably take him.
I know
that's
you
my
like
guy.
Spencer Sanders.
It looks like he is available.
He's available.
Yeah, I was the one that had him like top 5 like 3 years ago, and clearly that worked out well. Not.
And we'll let Mike make this pick formally and talk through it. And John, I think we should get Dwight up on deck here. We're running out of rounds.
Yeah, we're running out of rounds. So
there's Proton. Proton's ready to clap back at Bainbridge, I think.
Did take Spencer Sanders. You'll never learn, Michael. You'll
never. He just hopes he gets the 7th year of eligibility, Spencer Sanders.
We all have our guys in college fantasy.
Yes.
Hey, real quick, I just want to interject before I get off of here. How is the order of the draft compiled? Because I've done what, 30, 40 drafts this offseason, and I think in about 20 of those, Josh has been the first overall pick. How does this happen? He's got the best karma.
Mike, I use the greatest karma ever, and I use the same the one that we use with your partner
Joe.
Joe. I used the same site. I asked him for it. He put it into one of our DMs, and I used that one. And Josh must own stock in that company on that website. he keeps coming up number 1. Bainbridge was asking, "How did you get number 1 again, Josh?" Josh is laughing over here. Or he slipped me 100. You know what? PayPal's very nice nowadays.
Fantastic. Well, Mike, like I said, I feel like we could have done 19 rounds with you, but thank you for your time. We'll be watching your roster fill out nicely here over the last couple rounds. And like I mentioned earlier, man, CFF site is a gem of a resource. Fantastic. Could not recommend it higher for folks.
All right. Thank you, fellas. Enjoy the draft.
Thanks, Mike. Have a great day.
All right. So I think we're on to we'll get Dwight ready to jump on next. And then in the meantime, John, I mean, the board has just taken off. We haven't recapped the board in a while. I think we'd probably be 2 or 3 rounds back by now. But some of the highlight picks here, Chris Tyree in the 12th, Parson went in the 12th, a couple running backs there. You took Frank Harris in the 12th. That was a really nice pick as well. Dual threat guy. I considered him earlier. Big name Sam Laporta went at 13.8, KJ Jefferson at 13.4. Jackson Dart went off the board in the 14th, which I think was a big one here, just thinking about value and quarterback competitions. Adrian Martinez at 14.5, Tyler Buckner 14.3. So we've had some big picks coming on and off the board. And now here we go. We have Dwight with us as we're heading into the backstretch of the 16th round here. How's it going, Dwight?
Good. How are you, gang?
Why?
Let me get away from this. It's like a club. Yeah,
Does
baby.
the music follow you, Dwight?
It does,
Music
yeah.
just follows. He's a DJ. If you don't know, and music just
Man,
follows.
it's everywhere. Yeah, whatever. We're not avoiding it. All right.
You're in a good spot. You're in a good spot. It's a little background music.
Yeah.
So
How are you
thanks for
feeling about
joining us.
the team so far?
I'm really good, especially if Sam Hartman works out, man.
Yeah,
So,
we were
yeah.
talking about that in the 13th round. That felt like the right risk point for him.
Yeah. I figured why not, and then. I mean, I still like Leary, Mordecai, and I grabbed Talua, however you say it, as insurance too. So, yeah, and I like Talia. There you go. Never say that right.
I've drafted him enough. I need to know how to say it.
Right. Yeah, and I like everything. I like Addison's dribbling. I mean, I like wide receivers, tight end, getting Bowers was nice. So I feel like my starting lineup is as good as it comes with A-Chain and Deuce also. So, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of speed on that roster.
Yes, definitely.
So Dwight, this is your first year with us. And first I got to thank you. If you've been following us on Twitter throughout this offseason, I've been posting a video debuting the Kings Classic, and Dwight was the one who put that together. He's amazing, folks. He put together that. So if you go to my Twitter timeline or anything with Kings Classic, you can see the video Dwight put together. Thank you for that very much. So Dwight, tell us about your mindset sitting down. You took Brock Bowers, I think it was your 4th pick, and a quarterback with your 5th pick. So tell me what you were thinking about strategy-wise in your first draft sitting down. What were you going to do?
I didn't I'm thinking here. I was surprised Bowers made it to me, especially after Meyer went so early. I didn't plan on taking a tight end early. That's not something I normally do. But I feel like at Bowers falling halfway through the 3rd, was it? Or 4th even. I don't know. I'm trying to go back and look. Yeah.
Bowers I feel like pretty early. Yeah.
Yeah. By 4-4, which to get him around later than Myers, I felt like was pretty good value. So there, and then as quarterbacks, I kind of was trying to pull the trigger. I thought about if Hooker made it to me, I was going to get him in the 2nd. But then once you get past those first 3 or 4 guys, I just don't see any reason of reaching past that point. Getting Mordecai in the 5th was great. Leary in the 8th. I mean, I'll take that value over, the guys I got in the first couple. So I like that.
All right.
That is fantastic here. Sorry, I'm just working some back-end logistics here.
It's okay. Yeah, all of a sudden the draft just, we're back to me already.
Yeah, we're starting to fly now. Folks are working through these later rounds here. Biggest tell us about the draft room itself. John mentioned this is your first year in the league. How is it just being in that room with folks?
Oh, it's awesome, man. These are the guys that I've learned from. I've been learning from these guys. The CFF, it's something I've kind of come to late in the last couple of years, and these are all guys that I've looked to for help, that I've looked at these guys' rankings. I've bounced questions off these guys. These are guys that I've learned from, that I'm still learning from. So just to be in here with these guys is, it's starstruck in a dorky way, I guess. Starstruck by Shane Hallam. Come on. Who's starstruck by Shane? Just me. I am. It's awesome being with these guys. So, and then, Bainbridge. Come on. These guys are all the names for college fantasy football. So it's fun. And if I can even win a couple games, I'm happy, so.
That was my goal last year, was just to come in 11th. So It's a good goal to have the first time around, I think. Right. Now, let me tell you, I know you contribute to Campus to Canton as well. They have their own team. Are you out there to, try to one up the C2C team?
Of course.
Yeah, there you go.
Come on. And CFF Jared's like the man. If I can beat him, heck yeah. I'm a lord that. If I just finish 9th and Campus to Canton and Jared are below me, I'm happy.
There you go.
I have to go back in that room, don't I? I still have a lot of weekend left. Maybe I should not do that.
No. It's
So-
perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine.
I-
So looking at your build here, it seems like it's been a really balanced build. Was that
Right.
intentional, or did you just kind of take it as it came?
Yeah, definitely. My wide receiver depth is not the greatest, but
Nice.
like I see that, and Bainbridge
If
here
he
is
starts, yeah, man.
just trying to keep it balanced. I like to try to build balance. I like my running back depth. So the fact that I've got, Chris Smith, Valladay, Hall, Broussard, I mean, those all could potentially be, RB2s. So at the least, so I like that.
So, Dwight, you have 3 picks left. How are you? Do you have a strategy to close out? Have you thought about what your thought process is coming to the end?
This guy right here blows my freaking mind.
Oh, I know you like
He
him.
is, yeah. I almost took him in the 9th.
Oh,
And he's in the 17th.
wait a second. I'm so
Wait a
annoyed.
second.
I must
He
have
is like
typed his name in wrong. I checked him in the queue in round 14. I thought he was gone.
I think he's got like tight end 1 overall potential in college fantasy.
Oh man.
So
You got
yeah,
such a good value with Simon there. I typed him in wrong in the queue. I was gonna take him in the 14th.
So yeah, I like Simon a lot. I'm shocked. And then I just need to grab a couple receivers now. So I
Good
just
pick.
I'm running out. I need a couple more receivers. So yeah.
I'm on the clock, so I'm looking for someone right now. Sorry about this, everyone.
I almost think I might know who John's looking for here. Let's see.
Well, it's funny. I had to make sure I don't. I'm taking a tight end, and I didn't want to have a double buy, so I did check it out. I'm taking tight end Isaac Rex of BYU here.
I probably should check that.
He doesn't.
I
well,
don't
yeah. I mean,
look at buys. Yeah, I'm terrible at that.
I only look at buys at the tight end and the quarterback. I don't.
I'll tell you what. Somebody's going to want to play me week 9. I'm checking now. See who got that draw.
So I'm up again. I'm going to take another running back. I think you can never have enough running backs. So
now, Dwight, I'm interested to hear, as you kind of lead up into your next pick, and I think we do, unfortunately, because of time, have to get Froton up here on deck. But I'm interested, Dwight, you play Devi, you play CFF, you play C2C, you do a little bit of everything. So as you're kind of making this 18th round pick, I'm going to let you go ahead and do that, but I'll prompt you afterwards to give us a little bit of, how CFF is different for you, how you like it compared to the other 2 formats, and how it feels unique.
Yeah, it's unique just because it's, you are looking for those guys that, are just going to perform it's like redraft, I mean, you don't care as much about the long-term value, and it definitely challenges you a lot, because a lot of these names that are being drafted are guys that, even some key C2C guys aren't going to know as much, when it comes to CFF, it's definitely deeper. Definitely a lot of players that, will never obviously ever see an NFL field. So it's definitely a little more, definitely a lot of research. It's a lot of fun. It's definitely more challenging, but I feel like the player pool is so much deeper, and there's just so much to, I mean, it's so many different ways you can build a team. Like building in college fantasy is so much different than building in NFL fantasy.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so many different strategies you can take, as we've seen in this draft. I mean, guys taking 4 quarterbacks in the first 9 picks, guys taking 4 in the last 9 picks, like there's different ways. It's fun. Any strategy can work. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Dwight, thank you for jumping on, man. I'm sorry your time's a little bit shorter, I think, than some others, but we're in crunch time, man. We're flying through the second half of the draft.
Yes,
folks took their time early, and they're like, man, we got to get to flag football at later in the afternoon here. So
Yep. All right, thanks guys.
Thanks Dwight for joining us.
All right, we got Froton coming up on deck.
Froton is coming up. I just want to say,
yep, go ahead.
I just want to announce we haven't talked about it in a while, but if anyone who's been watching us, we are collecting money for St. Jude Children's Hospital. if you've been watching with us the whole time, and we are collecting, and all the money will be donated that we collect to St. Jude's. Probably I get home from Canton on Tuesday. I'll probably send the money to St. Jude's by next Thursday. I'll post the link how much we have raised. We'll go up on Twitter with how much we give to St. Jude's. But if you've liked what we've been doing, everything Matt and we do is for the benefit of the hobby. Please make a donation to St. Jude's. The link is right down below on the screen there, and any amount, no matter how small, is much appreciated. So, how are we doing there, Matt? We got to get Eric on, right?
Yep, and I think we're going to have our reigning champ on to do a little recap here, because I think we're going to finish with Eric is my assumption here.
Oh, with the draft, and then have Justin come on right after the recap. Excellent.
Yes.
All right. So, Matt, you're on deck. So let me see some of the players we've been going along. We're all the way into round number 18. Julian Fleming, the wide receiver out of Ohio State, finally went to Froton. And reports lately out of the Buckeyes is that Fleming has been playing great. I mean, maybe he gets on the field more. He seems to be the forgotten man in that passing attack for the Buckeyes. That's a very interesting pick there. Cameron Peoples, him lasting from Appalachian State to Mike Bainbridge. That's a huge value there. They're probably, both of their running backs are going to get plenty of work for the Mountaineers. So that's a very interesting pick this late. And Shane took Spencer Rattler, who I've gotten Rattler like in 7 drafts this year, because he's just floating around with the ceiling. It's all about the ceiling. And I think, you know what, why I like Rattler also, I think we're going to know after 3 games if he's good or not. I mean, I don't think we don't have to hold on to him if he's bad. And
Right.
if he hits, you get a huge ceiling. I mean, I think there's a no-brainer about that. All right. So, Matt, tell us why you made a pick and who you made there. And Froton's still trying to get the technology up.
Yeah, it was like Froton snubbing us here. We could slide in Justin first if we wanted to.
Is Justin in the room right now? You want to put him on first?
He's not in the room, but we could tap him in. Is he live with you?
He should. I think he was watching earlier. Froton's trying to do it. Let's see who gets in first.
We'll see who gets in first. Okay. I took Jalen Hyatt here in the 18th round. I'm a lower on wide receiver depth at this point, and there were safer picks to make, but I felt like in the 18th round, let me take a shot here on a guy who could be the number 2 wide receiver in a really potent Josh Heupel offense there for the Vols. So maybe a little hometown favoritism there, or maybe just a good amount of insight. And it does look like we have Froton coming to us. We're rocking, is that an SC jersey? What am I seeing here? No, it's a Minuteman jersey.
Yes,
probably.
it is.
It is an SC jersey. Okay.
This is my first ever Heisman Trophy Award college fantasy football player, none other than the great Matt Leinart.
Fantastic. I love that. It looks like it's gotten some nice usage too.
Oh, God. Yeah. It's been around for a while. It's since his junior year when he won the Heisman, and then he came back for the senior year. Yeah, it's been around for that long.
Fantastic. Well, John, I have to make a pick, so I'll let you take the lead here.
So, Eric, tell us what your strategy was going into the draft, what you were thinking, and how you composed your first 5 picks. What were you thinking there?
Sure. Well, as I've kind of been doing through the off season with the best ball drafts that we've done, I've tried to kind of wait on quarterbacks to see if I can get values down the board, because I do feel like it's a pretty good class that we have to choose from. Accordingly, I went with Zach Charbonnet, UCLA, with my first selection, which was the 10th pick overall, as you guys can see there on the board. I feel like Zach Charbonnet is in line for obviously a heavy workload in the Chip Kelly system, and that he is going to be an exceptional running back. That being said, John, it was him or Braylon. It was one of those two. I've kind of been oscillating between those guys through, the season, but with the lack of catches is what kind of did it for me in a PPR format. And then I was pretty excited to get Xavier Worthy at the 3rd pick in the 2nd round. I have a lot of shares of him this year. If you watch the film, and I know you guys do, he has been absolutely electric. I mean, there was a great Twitter post I over the weekend, or a couple days ago, where it was just showing Xavier Worthy running bare naked down the field, wide open, and getting missed time after time after time. And I'm hoping with Quinn Ewers at the helm, hopefully, and his big arm, that he can get it to him.
Oh, Matt, your pick. Oh, did you make a pick, Matt? They were saying you had 15 seconds. You made it?
I was making a tough choice. I was debating if I wanted to take one more quarterback at the end here, but I decided to rock with 3. We'll see if I regret it.
Gotcha. All right. So go ahead.
I don't think you'll regret it. I think in a best ball format, it's a different ball game there. But redraft, we can pick up quarterbacks, and again, that kind of dovetails with sort of my philosophy, is just trying to stack as much of the skill positions as I can, and then wait till the 8th round where I picked up Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But my 3rd round pick was Zach Evans at the 310. Reports out of camp have been that from beat writers, that he is the best athlete on the entire team, and he's going to get an absolute workload. We're all skeptical of it. I mean, we'll see. But at 310, I felt good. And then Marvin Mims, Oklahoma, last till the 4th round. There was a gigantic wide receiver run, as you guys can see, in that 2nd and 3rd round.
Yeah,
and I felt pretty good about getting him there. And then I followed that up with Mitchell there.
Eric, I've got to. Oh, sorry, not to cut you off. I've got to ask you, because the chat has just exploded with this 19th round Norton selection. Are you believing that Norton could take that job from Brock? Is that a good value there in the 19th?
It's funny. That was a topic of conversation in the room with Jared, talking about how he took Jarrell Brock because he feels like, the elder statesman who's paid his dues is more likely to get the lion's share of carries. However, the buzz from Cartavius Norton is right there. I think he'll be a very solid RB2, and it's entirely possible he goes and takes that job as the season progresses. That being said, he's going to be the first guy on the block there in the 19th round if he does not get that job. So it's sort of a, he's going to be the first one on the block if Fenwick comes out, Brock comes out and looks good. It's an easy cut. So, high risk, low risk, high reward.
Yeah, especially in the 19th.
Especially. It's the last round. We're good to
and
go.
you're on the clock here, so we'll let you make your selection here, unbothered by our ramblings here. But John, you have one selection left. I thought you almost had a full team. How are we feeling? We haven't even talked about our own rosters, really. So, John, I'll ask you, how, a scale of 1 to 10. No, grade yourself. The scholar, grade yourself here.
I would say I got a B-. I'm doing all right. I like how, so maybe a 7, maybe an 8. There were players that I targeted that I have all off season, and they fell to me at certain value. I've learned to be a little bit more patient at the position, so I was able to do that. But it's been very, very good to me. So, Eric, who did you take? I'm on the clock now. We're almost done here. Let me see.
I went with Kamani Vidal-Sassoon from Troy State. As we know, Troy is turning over from an air raid offense, and they are expected to be a lot more ball control oriented this season. And Vidal has proven himself to be the incumbent and the clear best back in that backfield, in my opinion. I feel like in the 19th round, the juice is worth the squeeze, and we'll see how that new approach takes.
And if you heard that Fantrax noise in the background, it's because we have completed the draft. 19 rounds here of the 2022 CFF Kings Classic is in the books. If you're watching the live stream or listening, we are going to still continue to do some wrap-up analysis here, so hang with us. We would love to see in the chat as we're going through this who your favorite roster is, who your favorite team is. So go ahead and just drop those in the chat now that they're complete. But Froton, one of the things I wanted to ask you here, I think you have a really interesting collection of quarterbacks with some real high upside potential. Was that really intentional?
Well, like you say, the word potential. I decided to kind of swing for the fence a little bit after waiting. I think, was I the longest to wait to take a quarterback? Oh, no, excuse me, that was Bainbridge. Yeah,
there was a lot of folks who waited.
Yeah. DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA to pair with Charbonnet, stack them. I obviously love UCLA. I think they're going to score, eclipse the 35 point per game barrier this year. And those two are really going to be spearheading it. Chandler Morris, the reports have been he's taken the first snaps out of camp in each of the first 3 practices or so, at least the ones that have been open to the public. I have been vocal in terms of my feelings about Max Duggan, not Dugan, John. And I wanted to get me some Chandler Morris. And in a format like this, in best ball, if you pick wrong, you're in trouble, But in this, if you go and pick wrong, okay, I can at least have some other shots, get rid of that guy, and go and make a pickup. But I love TCU's offense. I love the Sonny Dykes offense. I'm all about it. Quentin Johnson, as we've all heard, Jordan Hudson coming in as a true freshman has been lighting up camp. I'm really excited. And then, we got Tyler Buckner, who has won the job, as it was just announced. 14th round, he's been going in generally around the 10th for the drafts I've been in. And then after John took Will Levis, which is, hey, why not? You know what I mean? At 16-2, I took Evan Prater at 16-3. And again, if things, obviously we got Dorian Thompson-Robinson, we have Buckner that are solidified, but you got a couple of real high upside shots in Morris and Prater. And if Prater or either of them don't get the job, you can simply move on, and it's not going to hurt you like we talked about in the best ball format. So that's kind of what I was thinking, is trying to shoot for the moon.
Absolutely. And Froton, I'm being told that you need to head back to the draft room for a group photo here to wrap things up. So we're going to go ahead and wrap things up on our end here. Make sure everybody gets the group shot here from campus to Canton. From Canton itself. John, do you want to give final remarks here, and then we'll wrap up the show? I just want to briefly say thank you so much for everybody watching coast to coast with us, even though it was an early morning start for some folks. So thank you so much contributing to the chat. And we'll be giving updates, on Twitter throughout the season here of how this league is going.
I just want to thank everyone, from all the guests who came out to Canton to those who drafted at home. Without you, none of this would be possible. Thank you for anyone who made a donation to St. Jude's Research Hospital. We appreciate that very much. I mean, thanks for watching it. You, the fans, all of the CFF fanatics like myself, you make this worth it. And this is why I stay doing this hobby. Thank you very much, everyone.
And a goodbye from the draft room as well via Proton. Thank you. A round of applause. Thank you, everybody. We're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up from Matt and John here. This is the 2022 CFF Kings Classic live draft.